Review agenda for additional removal or adjustments of any items. Anything that, okay, we're good. Public forum, let's do an overview of the Zoom meeting. So if you're not talking, can everybody just mute themselves, and then if you need to talk, either send us a chat, wave, or raise your hand. Public forum. Anybody have anything they'd like to say that's not currently on the agenda? We'll take less than 5 minutes. Nathaniel, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Hi. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. My name is Nathaniel Vandal. I'm with Green Peak Solar. We're a Vermont-based solar developer over in Waitsfield. And just wanted to take a quick moment tonight to introduce ourselves and let you guys know that we're working on a project on Jim Lathrop's land across from the Claire Lathrop band mill off of Cane Hill Road. And we're planning to submit an information packet as part of the Certificate of Public Good process. We're planning to submit that to you guys relatively shortly. And just wanted to introduce ourselves before you got that. Make sure you have our contact information if you have any questions about the project or there's anything we can do. And wanted to offer to get on the agenda more formally and present any, if you deem that informative, we'd be happy to come back and present to folks. We're also happy to meet with people at the site whenever. So just wanted to introduce ourselves, say hello, and yeah, hopefully we're here to answer any questions you might have. Really, the purpose of this information packet is to incorporate comments from stakeholders like the town and regional planning commission. So we just want to say hello and thank you for our time, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Thank you very much.
Have any questions?
So this is, so it's a large solar array. Can you give a little bit of detail? Like, I know about it. I've been talking to Sally Burrell, who's the chair of the Energy Committee. So it's a good sized array, bigger than what we currently have in Bristol, or hopefully we'll have at the town dump.
Yep, it's 2.2 megawatts. So it's about, I think the town dump was planned for 500 kilowatts. So it'll be about times the size of that. The project was awarded a contract under what's called the Standard Offer Program, which is a state-run RFP every year that selects projects based on the lowest cost. So this was the lowest cost solar project in the 2020 RFP. It's going to be about 29 to 30 rows of panels. The rows will tip east to west every day, and the rows will be about the same size as what you're used to seeing on a fixed tilt solar array. And the top height's about 9 to 11 feet above the ground. And when they're horizontal during the middle of the day, they'll be about 6 feet off the ground. And we chose the site because it's relatively close to the Hewitt Road substation, which is a great place to put the power. The site is really clean from an environmental perspective. There's no wetlands, endangered species, or real issues from an environmental perspective. And really, most importantly, we feel like it's a really good location for Bristol because its location is relatively obscured from the view. So we feel like it's a pretty low impact place to put a large array like this.
Right.
When do you expect to start putting it up?
So we expect to file this notice package, which will kick off our Certificate of Public Good permitting process. That's going to take 8 to 10 months.
Okay.
So at the very earliest, we would start construction in the fourth quarter of this year. That's why we're trying to get all of our ducks in a row and get the application submitted and going. That would be the very earliest. Maybe more likely would be the spring of next year.
Okay.
Great. Now, is this something that in terms of our project at the town dump, it's something where it's a cooperative, so the public can buy in? Is it the same kind of project, or is this different in terms of there's no ability to do that if let's say you're a resident in Bristol and and wasn't able to put solar panels on their house or residence? Is it something that you could buy into or use from that array?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's not part of the net metering program. So we offer that to residents. But because it's under this the state standard offer program, the power is actually sold to all of the Vermont utilities on a pro rata basis. So Green Mountain Power will buy about 80% of it, and it's sold basically to them at a wholesale rate. So that's indirectly it will benefit everybody by bringing lower cost solar, but we can't offer like individual shares.
Right. Mainly because of the size, because it's such a large array.
And just the way the regulations are set up.
I see.
Projects under you can't net meter with projects over 500 kilowatts.
Okay.
Our rate to actual ratepayers is about half of what the net metering rate is. So we're able to offer economies of scale and low cost power, which we feel like is an important part of the energy mix for the state.
Great. Well, it seems like a really exciting project.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Is there any stipulation in your sale of the power to Green Mountain Power that their price will come down, or that a certain percentage, based on how much they buy from you?
So not in our contract is effectively with a purchasing agent for the Public Utility Commission. And then the Public Utility Commission distributes it to the utilities. So any rate impacts from the project would have to be dealt with through the Public Utility Commission. But I can say that this would be, of all of the solar that Green Mountain Power would be buying, this is the lowest price project from that 2020 RFP. So I would hope that it'll have a negative impact on rates, but there's nothing that in our contract that stipulates that has to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? This will probably be on the agenda at some other point, right, Val? Or you're muted.
Only if you think it's necessary. There's no protocol to do that.
Okay. I was just curious if there'd be more public questions. Joel, did you have something?
Just, we'll go through the planning commission or DRB, the new DRB, or what?
I don't know.
So we've reached out to the Planning Commission to basically offer to do the same thing, and we're certainly going to be providing the same information to the Planning Commission. But in terms of the actual permitting process, the Public Utility Commission permits these under Section 248. So the town is a stakeholder in that process, but the actual permit authority rests with the state.
Yeah, correct. But I just wanted to make sure, because remember, was it 18 months, 2 years ago, Michelle, when we had done the one they were going to put in South Bristol down by the Saunders property, and none of the neighbors knew about it and stuff that came in. And so I just want to make sure everybody's informed.
Absolutely. We're doing our best to reach out to everybody. We've reached out to the Energy Committee, Planning Commission, to you guys tonight. And we've also sent letters to the abutting property owners to let them know to expect a packet. We held a site visit this weekend as an opportunity for people to come and meet with us. Nobody came. Unfortunately, none of the abutters came, but we did hear from a couple of people that live at the top of Cane Hill, and they didn't have any objections to the project, had some questions for us about the access road. But we're doing our best to reach out to everybody, and certainly if anybody in the community has any questions, we'd welcome them.
Yeah, I think it would be good for you to present to the select board if you're willing to do that. I think, we get a lot of people that attend the meetings here, that read the minutes, that watch the videos. And so I think it's another way to be able to reach the community. I think you're going to be talking with Sally on the Energy Committee as well. So that'll be good. But yeah, even if it was just, a 15-minute presentation at one of our next meetings, I think that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, get you on the agenda, so at least then it's noticed to the public. They know that you're going to be on the agenda.
Yeah, and once you get that information pack too, that's hopefully that'll contain more information that you can share with the public as well.
Yeah, we can do
We
that.
aim for a date in February after the select board's budget work is done and we have received that package.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Great.
Okay.
Super.
All right, great. Thank you,
Thank you,
Nathaniel.
everybody.
Yeah.
Appreciate
you.
it.
Have a wonderful evening.
Okay. Before we move on to regular business.
hang on. Hang on one
Go
second.
ahead.
Chris, could you?
I was just
Oh,
gonna,
sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm just gonna introduce myself. I'm with Nathaniel at Green Peak Solar. So hello. That's the other face.
Nice to see you, Chris.
See you guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Before we move on, I'd just like to send out from the town of Bristol and the Bristol Selectboard to the Rick DeSorda family our condolences, who passed unexpectedly Saturday afternoon, and to Pete Domenico's family, who passed Christmas Day, and to thank them for their years of service. And they're going to be sorely missed. So our condolences out to all of them. Okay, let's move on. Regular business. Consider candidates and appointments to transition from a zoning board of adjustment to a development review board and address one or more planning commission vacancies. Okay. So I reached out to Carol Klaus, Ted Desmond, and Paul Jackman about going from the ZBA to the DRB, and all three of them said they would be interested in being on the DRB moving forward. So we didn't talk terms, but they are willing to continue on the DRB board.
Great.
We
That's
also,
good to hear.
we also received expressions of interest from Bill Brown, who is currently on the Planning Commission and whose term is up in March, Josh Crandall, and Thomas Wells.
Okay, so Val, let me ask you about Bill Brown, because when I read his email, I got the impression he only wanted to be on if they didn't have enough members.
That's what it sounded like.
And then once they got enough members, he would be done.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
if we
think
have enough members, then we don't need to appoint him. Is that your understanding from his?
That's my impression.
Okay. So my other question is then I also got from his email that he was going to be resigning from the PC.
Correct. His term is up in March, and I take it that he's not intending to seek reappointment.
Okay, so then we may have another opening. We'll have another opening in March.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we have which I think is that works in our favor. We had two interested parties for the planning commission. We had Melissa and we had John. And so if Bill steps down after his years of service in March, it seems like we have availability with two positions and we have two candidates. It sounds
Right.
a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I agree, Michelle. It seemed like Bill, he was willing, if we weren't able to fill the DRB roles, he was willing to step in temporarily. But it seems like we actually, with what you just said now, in terms of three existing members of the ZRB wanting to come aboard, and with the other appointments that we've made and the ones that we're looking at tonight, it seems like we're actually going to be able to fill the board nicely.
Right. Okay, I think we have Tom here, Tom Wells. And do we have Josh? Would either one of you like to say anything about your desires, thoughts? I mean, I know we got your emails and your bios.
Josh, why don't you go first?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Crandall. I'm a local Addison County kid. Grew up in Moncton. Traveled the East Coast for 10 years, and now I'm back. I've been living in the town of Bristol at 622 Meehan for about 3 years now. I am an architect by trade, and I'm an associate principal at Freeman French Freeman in Burlington, Vermont. I work primarily in commercial architecture, but I have done a significant amount of residential as well. I've dealt with and worked with design review boards in multiple municipalities, so I've got a significant amount of experience there, but I am interested in contributing to the community and working with the group from the other end. So that's the short and sweet of it. If anyone has any questions of specific, please let me know.
Great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Mr. Wells.
Well, I think I know everybody here. Tom Wells. Carol and I have been in Bristol about 25 years. I have a well-established interest in the community and in particular the downtown. I served on the planning board for 8 years and gave that up really when I was running into too many conflicts. I am now retired from my day job, which is as a land use lawyer. So I have a great deal of expertise in matters that would come before this board. So, I would just submit myself as someone who's interested. I do not desperately need to be on this board. So if there are other people who want to serve, that I won't be offended. I did mention in my materials that I sent along that Carol and I are now spending time at our place in Shoreham as well as Bristol. And most of you who know us know that in most normal winters, we try to head someplace south of here in the wintertime. I know that the regulations, the way they have been previously written and they're still written, it provides for people who are Bristol residents and those who are not. I intend to stay a Bristol resident, but if you needed to know that we might not be here all the time, I could certainly be selected as someone who is not a Bristol resident as well, if you wanted to balance it out. So I'm happy to answer questions. Bristol zoning and subdivisions and so forth are something that I'm very familiar with, and be happy to help if I can.
2 questions, Tom. When you were doing your zoning work, was that in Vermont or out of Vermont?
Virtually none in Vermont, very little in Vermont, almost all in New Jersey, New York.
Then my next question is, if your desire is not to be, you don't have to be on the board, would you be willing to be the alternate? Because we have two alternates. One alternate position is done, and with the availability of Zoom right now, and most of their meetings are going to be done by Zoom, so it won't matter where you are.
Oh, no, I don't see any problem having attendance. I'm just saying that if you've got other people who are very interested, I'll be happy to step aside. I'd rather not be the alternate, to be very honest with you, just because it's just, if I'm going to be there, I'd like to vote.
Yeah, I feel like you don't have any issue in terms of the meeting attendance. It's mainly just the idea of the residency.
I just want to be honest and
yeah.
say that Carol and I spend some time out of town. And honestly, the reason I left the planning board after 8 years was I was running into a direct conflict with the Tuesday night meetings with what was my day job, but it was actually a night job because I had to appear in front of a board of adjustment on a long, many-year hearing. And so, but I don't have to anymore.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for Tom or Josh? Okay.
I think they both have good bona fides.
And Tom Wallace, you also are interested in the DRB, is that right? You're muted.
Sorry for
There
the
you
delay.
go.
Sorry for the delay. Yes, I've agreed to complete my commission job. I want to stay on the planning commission through next year.
You're on the planning commission through next year?
Correct.
Okay. Like 2021 or 2022?
Me too.
So you'd continue as that, but you'd also be interested in the DRB position as well.
No, that's not correct. Stay on
sorry.
the planning commission, correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for anybody? Okay, so what's the board's pleasure? We have two planning commission, which is Melissa and John, who are interested. Right now we have one opening, and in March we'll have another one by sounds. And then right now we have 4 people appointed to the DRB, 3 more current members who are interested in continuing on the DRB. And then we have Josh and Tom. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have the three that you spoke
Right.
to from the zoning, current zoning board of adjustment.
From the ZBA, yep.
Yep. So I guess, well, let's do planning commission.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Melissa Hernandez to the planning commission and the current vacant spot. And I don't know what the term is for that. It would start immediately, I guess, or the next meeting, and then would go through whatever that term is, which I can't remember off the top of my head. And so I make a motion to do that. Can I make a motion for two people, or do we do it individually?
I think you can make a motion for both.
For
The
both?
position runs through 2022.
Okay. Oops.
So you would like to appoint Melissa for the current position, which expires in 2022.
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to appoint that. I'd like to make a motion to appoint John Cromer to the planning commission for the vacated spot in March, which will be Bill Brown's spot.
They're not
Make-
both being done at the same time, so I think they gotta be two separate motions.
Okay.
Well, and we'll probably have to wait until March though, Ian, to appoint him after the term expires, don't we? Because we'll do all the appointments for that time after the meeting, after March.
That's true. Okay.
Is that right?
Unless Bill Brown resigns sooner than that, which wasn't entirely clear in his email.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, since his term is up in March, that's pretty close by. I might shoot him an email and just ask if he'd like to, finish out his term, beginning of March. And then we can go from there. It seems
Yeah,
like
but
he would
if
do that. He's co-chair with Katie, so
Yeah.
I hope he would finish out his term as instead of resigning right now.
Okay. Somebody
so-
want to? So let's deal with the motion about Melissa first.
So I make a
Somebody
motion.
wanna
I make a motion to appoint Melissa Hernandez to the Planning Commission, Bristol Planning Commission.
Okay. Somebody want a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye, whatever. Okay. Welcome to the board, Melissa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank-
Thank you for serving on it.
I appreciate it.
It's very much appreciated.
So, the next meeting of that, would I attend that, or how is this gonna work?
Yep.
Yep, you're on.
You're
And
on
when-
as of tonight.
And when
so
is
we'll
the next meeting is
For me.
next week?
The third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, the standards of the third Tuesday, and occasionally it's the first Tuesday. Is that right? If and when needed,
Mhm.
as
So-
needed.
So someone will just send me the link for the Zoom meeting and all of
Yep.
that.
Yeah,
And,
you'll get the agenda from Katie, from the
Right.
chair.
And Ian or someone was gonna send me kind of what's before the commission right now, so that I could kind of see what was going on before.
Sure, we
We'll
can.
probably ask Katie to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
she can get you up to speed, and you can look
Okay.
at their past minutes from the previous meetings and stuff like that and agendas. So we'll make sure you got everything you need.
Okay,
Make sure you're inundated.
Make sure you're inundated with stuff.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Great.
All
Well,
right,
thank you
well,
very
thank
much,
you.
Melissa.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to it.
Great.
Okay.
All right, I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks,
Bye.
Melissa.
Okay, so let's move on to Development Review Board. So the three current ZBA members that are interested to continue are Carol Klaus, Ted Desmond, and Paul Jackman.
I could step back a little bit. How was it left
Sure.
with John Cromer?
I think,
Did you
it,
make a motion, Ian? Did it get seconded?
I did,
No.
but the concern was, can we make a motion to appoint someone without a vacant position?
Okay.
So I think we need to figure out what Bill would like to do, whether he resigns immediately or serves out his term. Once we find that out, I'm happy to make a motion at the next meeting to appoint John, or in March to appoint John.
That's a logical plan.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so refresh my memory, Val. We have how many 3 years, how many 2 years, how many 1 years, and I know we have one more alternate.
Let me pull up, let's, hang on a second here.
1, 3, 2 twos, 1, 1.
Only 1-1?
I believe so. Because we appointed, no, 2 1s.
Okay.
Yeah, the resolution's on the website. Let me pull it up here. I can try to screen share.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure Kevin Brown's a 3-year, Brenda's a 3-year, John's a 2-year, and Robert's
It's on
Robert
your
is
screen.
the alternate.
Oh, there we go. Lovely.
One
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Oh, alts are only 1 year. Okay.
Okay, so Carol, Ted, and Paul, does somebody want to make a motion to appoint them to the DRB, and then we can figure out the years?
I was gonna do the years. I would move Carol
Go
the 3-year, Ted and Paul for the 2-year.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm sorry. You said Carol for the 3-year?
That is correct.
Okay, Carol for the 3-year, Ted for the 2, and Paul for the 2.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion? All those in favor, wave your hand, say aye, whatever. Okay,
Aye.
motion carried. Okay. So that
Can you
takes
give me
care of
those
the
last
3
names?
years, and that takes care of the 2 years.
Sure. Klaus, Desmond,
Carol Klaus, yep,
Jackman.
Ted Desmond,
And
and
is
Paul
that
Jackman.
KLAUSC?
CLAUSS. Oh, CAR. Wait, for which name? Last or first?
Carol what?
Klaus.
Klaus. CLAUSS.
Okay, and then Ted,
Desmond.
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 and then Paul Jackman, you said?
Paul Jackman.
Who seconded that?
I did. Joel.
Joel
Oh,
did.
thanks.
Okay, so that means that we now have one year and then alternate. One alternate, which is a 1 year.
1 year and 1 alternate. Yeah.
So now we make Tom and Josh fight over it. Usually we don't have the wonderful option of that. Having too many people to fill boards. It's a nice position to be in.
Josh, do you have a preference? Do you want to be an alternate? And that way, it doesn't mean you can't go to the meetings. It just means you won't have a vote unless somebody just doesn't show up.
Yeah, I guess I'd express the same sentiment as Tom about the alternate position.
Okay. Oh, God, you too.
Don't make it easy.
I'll make
I
it.
don't necessarily think everybody shows up for every meeting. The current ZBA has had trouble
That's
Really?
just getting a quorum at times.
Mhm. Well, this is certainly a different makeup from what the ZBA was.
That's right.
It is. You're also talking to get 7 people together for a meeting that,
More frequently.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I have to believe that there's going to be plenty of time. There's going to be plenty of times that the alternates are used.
Right. Tom, Wells, any thoughts?
I'm still on.
No, his picture's there. I'm sure he's still there.
I told you my thoughts.
We're good.
No.
All right, Tom, you were on the planning commission for 8 years. Can you shed a little light on how many times you had a full commission when you had your meetings?
Oh, a lot of those years were the years when we were working on the gravel pit and the plan that had to be done from scratch. So we had very good attendance, to be honest with you, Peter. Those were long and hard, controversial years for the planning commission. So for the most part, I would tell you that it was fully attended.
Okay.
We really, I can't think of any problem people who didn't come. It was well attended, and the people were very, very loyal and did their job.
Thanks.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we, I wish we could have them both on there, but, Tom Wells is our, as a, what is it, 1 year or 2 year left?
They're both 1 years, but one's just an alternate.
And Josh, I know you don't want to, but I think there's a lots of times you'd be voting more than you wouldn't be voting. I think you would. And Josh as the alternate. Their credentials are just superior for that board. I think they're going to could bring a lot to that board. And
Okay, so you're appointing Tom as the 1 year and Josh as the alternate?
yeah, and then I think this board, the select board, take a good hard look the next year and get some feedback from our chair on that board. Who's really participating and coming in, and and maybe we switch out one of those and move Josh to a permanent position, not an alternate the following year. Maybe a little rotation wouldn't hurt them. If you're up, maybe one of them we draw straws and say, your attendance wasn't that good. We're going to make you an alternate and make Josh a permanent one for, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Okay. Somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
Josh, what are you're okay with that, or would you prefer?
I will see how it goes. I will I'll accept the position and I'll see how it goes.
Give us a year, Josh, and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Ask you for a year.
Okay.
I
Well,
think that's fair, and I'm just dipping my toe in the water, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Thank you, Josh.
We certainly appreciate it. We usually don't have this problem. Okay, any more discussion?
I wouldn't call it a problem. I call it
No, it's not a problem.
Opportunity.
But it's a good one.
opportunity. Yeah.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye, raise your hand. Perfect. Motion carried. Welcome aboard, everyone.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, guys.
I'll be
Thank you.
sending letters out to everybody for their appointments.
And a copy of the
Now,
new regs.
and Michelle, just want to get back to Tom Wallace is not getting off the board, and he really didn't need to come and speak, right? Because we're not filling that position if he doesn't want it until November or March of 2022, right?
Well, no, and right, yeah. No, for some reason I thought he was interested in being on the DRB.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
all.
I think he was just checking in, I think.
Yeah, I got a little nervous if I missed his email or something, but I and I don't see one, so
Yeah, no. Okay.
Excellent.
Next, moving on, budget workshop, planning and zoning, listers and other general fund sections, preliminary capital improvement plan. Okay, Jen, you sharing your screen?
he's a co-host.
Yeah, she is.
Michelle, while you're waiting for Jen to come up, you'll probably see I'm in a different location.
Yeah, we figured you were at your office.
No, I'm at the fire station.
No?
My IT girl couldn't even get our computer to work tonight, so.
No, I got it to work. It's your internet.
It's our internet. So.
So I just did zoning first. I think the biggest discussion will probably be the listers, so I figure we'll do that last since Sharon's on.
Okay.
Do planning and zoning, and then
So when I think the salary discussion we're having later on.
right.
Okay.
That's pretty much.
I suppose at the very least we should just carried over the current numbers just to have a baseline to compare to. I didn't think to do that, but now I would have.
We can see the prior year what it is. So.
Just the bottom line numbers.
Right, that just won't be off. Okay.
Michelle, can we lower that 1,000? They haven't spent 22 in the last 2 years.
Where are you at? What line?
Planning zoning salaries. 19 was 19,755. F 20.
Well, this is just Chris.
Yes.
Oh,
Right, this is just
okay.
Chris.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Has Chris looked over these numbers too?
Presumably,
Yes.
he did respond.
Mhm.
Don't know what his opinions are, but he did respond.
He just said he could work with that.
Right.
Not sure. I was just like, I filled in the numbers as a baseline, but certainly change. And he said he could work with it. So,
Okay. Well, I can, all those little purples, I don't know if those are just my comments, but I can tell you every single one of them said, can't we put some of these down since he hasn't spent that much in
Right.
2 or
Well,
3 years?
That's what I was going by, the first top line, salaries. If you
Yeah.
drop that to maybe 20, 21.
Well, we'll be able to discuss that when we talk about salaries, Joel, which we're going to do an executive session.
Okay.
okay. So,
But zoning supplies, I mean, I thought he was over, but was that actually 2019 for some
That was,
reason?
that was last year or the year before.
Okay.
yeah, that's 2019.
Okay. And that's because he bought a whole bunch of folders, which was fine.
Right. To make application packets.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah,
like 2020, he was only at $277.
yeah.
And now all of
Also, he was also working from home, and now he's coming into the office. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of COVID here because he worked remotely.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say 600 for that. I mean, it's small, but if it's not being used, what's the computer line for? That's his Dominion Tech stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I wasn't sure if it was equipment or if it was the software.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
What's the advertising? So that was
I was
130 has been spent, so that needs to be bumped up.
Well, that's what my question is. Now that we've got the DRB, is he going to be required to do more advertising?
If this is where the expense comes out of for warnings, planning commission and DRB warnings, then that's the DRB might be more active.
Well, and that's what I wondered if we needed to up this because of that. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know what that requirement would be. Does it have to be in the newspaper for the DRB? And if it does, then yeah, I think we're going to have to up it.
$750.
Yeah, why not? And then we can see where we are next year.
I was going to use Ian cut that other one down from 800 to 600. I was going to take that 200 and put it in that line.
Yeah.
Well, we're already at 130. From a.
That's because of the voting in November. That's not like ZBA or anything like that. That's for all the stuff that had to be publicized for the zoning vote in November.
For the unified regs?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. That makes sense.
So that's why the number's high at the moment.
Okay.
So do you think, Jen, 500 would still be enough for them?
I mean, like if you look at the $41, that's probably a more close to accurate price of what he would have to pay for like that would be a zoning publishing.
Okay, but if he's on the
not two, but I don't know. I don't know the new regs enough to know how much more or how many more meetings you'd have to have.
Right, but if there's going to be DRB publications, they would be under this.
Right.
Let's do Joel's suggestion and just that 200 we took from supplies. Let's put the 200 in there, so 700. That gives us a nice amount. It seems like, especially if he's been under, those past years.
Mm-hmm. So in postage, yeah, I mean, do we need it at $400? I mean,
I'd bump that to 200.
Yeah, I
That's
agree with Ian.
200. I agree.
I agree with Ian.
Is it just going to depend on how the DRB wants to get their information, which is, I think, the question Michelle had. You know, if they have maps and things like that, I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I think
that's
the
a
planning
question.
commission changed to pretty much doing everything electronic. I have no idea what the zoning board does.
I know that there's at least one zoning board member who's very, would like paper copies of things.
Mhm.
But that person
I
can
mean-
also swing by and pick them up.
Right.
I mean, this,
Certified mail is probably the larger expense for postage.
Right, that's true. Any result letter is sent certified.
Right. Because I think for anything else, we're going to try to encourage as much electronic as possible, just to be able to keep track of stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, this is going to be a learning year for us, given this
Right.
is a new way. So
Attorney's fees. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
And
What was
that
it?
is
Did
that
you-
3,000 from 21? Was that for the town plan, or the unified regs?
I don't know.
I mean, because Addison Regional Planning that's zoning planning, isn't that right? That $5,000, that's Addison County Regional Planning.
Yeah, that doesn't come out. That, I mean, the dues to belong it, that doesn't come out of this line item.
No, don't we have a contract with Addison County Regional Planning that we pay them, that we sign up
That
with them
would
and
be
pay
attorney
them?
fees. Yeah, there's
Right, I know, but that's what I was trying to figure out what the $3,000 was.
So what is the specific for attorney fees? Do you know, John?
Let me look.
Is it the ZBA issue that happened? Is that what that is
That's probably part of it.
with the solar?
With the Tangerine, the solar
Yeah.
panels on Park Street. Could chew up that pretty quick.
Mhm.
Remember, we can see your screen, Jen.
You can't see my password though, Ian.
I got that pen if you want to give it to
Look, we get to see the behind the scenes of what Jen does.
Not a transaction.
I'm getting the
Already
hang of it, by the way.
I'm already confused.
Right.
Although it takes me a lot longer to do it than how's Jen's doing it.
She might be on like 150% speed. Maybe that's it.
Unfortunately,
Muscle memory. A lot of muscle memory going on there.
For some reason, I memorize these stinking numbers and dream about
They
them.
are attorney fees up there.
There's nothing.
Unfortunately, you forgot your kids' names, though. That's the
Well, I think,
Yeah.
didn't you put 2021 in there?
It's this year because that's the one is that the one we're looking at? Is this year or do you want last year's?
Oh, no,
No,
that's right.
that was this one.
308, 258.
Yeah.
Yep, Stitzel Page. And
What
Langmark
was
and
that?
Sperry.
Okay.
Those are who we paid. I obviously I
Comparison.
can't invoice, but
Okay. So that was an unusual one. So
Right.
yeah, let's go back to where's your so what's the normal? 3,500, 25. We dropped it down to 25. We dropped it down to 2. I don't know. I'd be okay with 2. I think that particular one this year was an anomaly. I hope. So I'd be okay keeping it with 2.
it
Yeah.
also could be your catch-all if you went over in your postage or your advertising and you don't really use the attorney fee. It could kind
Right.
of supplement you there a little bit so you
Okay.
could make the proper alterations for next year.
Yep, I'm
What's-
fine with that.
What's the planning? Is that a regional planning?
Yeah, things like the town plan and subdivision regs, special projects.
Okay.
What are we going to have this year? We've already done the town plan and we've already done the unified regs.
Right. So the reason we
I
don't
leave
have
it there because now that the planning commission has more capacity to take planning studies on, they might.
right.
And I had an exchange today with Katie about capital planning and how statutorily the planning commission is intended to have a more active role in capital planning for their municipalities. And so there might be some opportunity there. I don't know to what degree that would affect the budget, but anyway, there might be other opportunities, other things that they want to take on.
Yeah. Yeah. If we take it out, we start to like question, oh, should we do this? Should the planning commission be looking at this? We don't have that money there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Another thing that this line item might be useful for in this upcoming budget year, another thing that Katie and I talked about by email is arranging to have the planning commission and the select board and the new DRB have a joint meeting at least once a year, at least talk about it, explore doing that to see how things are going, and just to have an open line of communication. And that line item might be useful to cover certain types of, I don't know, when after COVID ends, if we ever have in-person meetings again in this upcoming budget year, there might be some expenses associated with special meetings.
Okay.
I wasn't suggesting we drop it. I was just curious as to what thoughts were going into that.
That's good to know.
I use that as an opportunity to put that idea out there about having joint meetings and try to at least plan. It can't always, execution might not always work as desired, but at least plan to have a tri-board meetings just to check in, see how things going, and just see what's going on with the different groups.
Well, with the 6 meetings that we lose because of every the second and the fourth, we can make them up with some joint meetings. Hooray!
Yeah.
Okay, printing. He hasn't spent this in 3 years, probably even longer back than that. But what would he be printing?
I think we need to print new subdivision regulations so we have a hard copy of that. Whether that can be done in the office or not, I don't know.
Well, you're going to have several. You're going to have to send at least 9 out to the members.
That's the other thing is I think that it's important for them to have a hard copy to be able to bring to a meeting or have access to at home.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Yep, that's right. Okay. Zoning
And
meetings.
it might be more practical to bring that down to Kimball's and have them just do it, bind them and whatever, make them durable rather than our paper clipped batch that puts wear and tear on the copy machine.
So I'm a little confused about zoning meetings. This is for the PC and the ZBA?
Yes.
So did they not get anybody get paid in
Usually
2020?
we do the same thing for you guys. We just do attendance after a 6-month period and then pay them. So they'll be getting payment, but you guys changed that amount, right?
Well, I was just trying to figure out why nothing shows up in fiscal year 20 under actual. Because if you do it now, aren't you in 2021?
Right. I don't know.
Katie mentioned that she hadn't been paid.
Do they go by meeting pay like we do, that somebody has to keep track?
Right.
I mean, I have no idea how planning commissioners ZBA gets paid. It's like $5 a meeting for the ZBA or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess if no one has submitted that and I hadn't asked for it, then it wouldn't have gotten done. So I must not have asked.
So why did it double for this year? Because we combined those two?
Well, I think you guys upped the meeting.
We did.
amount.
We did up to $10 a meeting, I think is what we did.
Wasn't that just for the chair?
Because it was only $5 a meeting.
Oh.
And before, and so I think you wanted some kind of a little bit more of a
incentive.
I thought we did.
I don't know what the right word is.
I know we did $10 a meeting and 15 for the chair.
Oh, okay.
That's what you did?
I don't remember. I remember the $10 a meeting. I don't remember.
We did a little more for the chair.
Yeah, I remember the chair thing. Obviously, we were a lot less jaded than we are now of all these Zoom meetings. We were so generous last year. We're like, oh, come on, let's up these meetings. So with Jen, are you plugging in the actual numbers? And so when we don't see actual numbers, it's just they haven't been put in by you, or is it Chris putting those in?
No, this is like what is showing in our system as being spent at the moment for actual.
Okay. So if you go back to 19 and 20 actual for like planning for attorney fee, were those never spent?
Correct. If there's no
Okay.
in there, they weren't spent.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I
it
think we
was
need to,
spent because it was spent in a different line. Is
oh, but we don't know what that is, right? Oh, I guess we can, because we can know if it was the attorney fees, stuff would be moved around a little bit
right. Well,
within
there's
that budget.
dollars.
Yeah.
There's $12,000 in the planning line, and we only budgeted $6, so it had to come from somewhere.
Right.
That was the instance where we didn't get. Well, that was the instance where we didn't get that bill timely from.
Right.
Oh,
From
right.
ACP,
Planning,
Madison
so
County
Yes.
Regional.
Planning.
So like you look at both the years because of when we got the bill, and so.
Well, they know now to bill us on the right time now.
Mhm. Mhm. No, I guess we need to figure out a better way to make sure that they submit either a request to get paid, or I mean, and I don't know who keeps track of the meetings in that, Jen. Is that them, or do you guys have to do that?
That's what's been kind of confusing. I know when Eric was in Chris's position and he did all that stuff, he provided me that information, and I don't get that, and some of it is I don't remember if I asked Eric, and I don't know if Chris and I just haven't had the conversation that twice a year I need to get that information.
Well, he probably knows better than you, so
Right.
it should be really on his to-do list, like June 1st or July 1st in January, whatever it is, to get you that information.
Right.
But
So it's
maybe
just,
he doesn't
definitely just
know.
a communication thing for sure. It's because he doesn't. I guess I don't really know. Does he goes to the planning meeting but doesn't take the minutes? Is that?
No, he does take the minutes.
He
I
takes
thought
the
he was the minute taker for planning
See,
commission
I
meetings.
guess I was misunderstanding.
And the ZBA. Isn't he the minute taker for both?
That's what I was
Carol-
under the
Carol is,
impression. I remember that being for Eric, but I don't remember. I guess I don't know if I know Chris goes. I guess I just don't know if he takes the minutes or not.
Val, did you say he doesn't take the minutes for the ZBA?
I believe Carol Klaus was the ZBA
Minute taker.
and he the planning commission shifted. He did some minutes, and then they had somebody on the board rotate doing minutes, and I'm not sure where they've landed on that right now.
Well, I think maybe we need to put this on Chris's lap to say, okay, you guys need to figure out how this is going to get from them to him to Jen,
To Jen, yes.
so that people get paid.
Yes.
I mean, they're doing a
I-
service, mostly
Yes.
community service for our town. We should at least get them paid for the year.
And I think the majority of the planning commission members probably forget that they get paid, and then
Right.
it will be a nice surprise when they do get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, Jen, how do you find out that you pay all us? I'll look for our great big dividend check here in a couple of 3 weeks, probably.
Well, I just go
Wait, what?
and get that information.
So I think, yeah, we need, all of us as a group, as town employees and boards need to come together and make sure these people are getting paid too. And if that means, Chris, you got to give us the attendance sheet for last night's meeting. It's got to go somewhere so Jen can find out, and every 6 months.
Right.
Right. And I mean, we just have been doing it in 6-month increments because a $5 check.
Yeah.
per month,
Oh, I get
it's
it.
not worth, you know what I mean? I mean, it's the same for you guys. We wait and do it. So it's a worthwhile check for you all.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think we have a problem with that. We just need to
Okay.
make sure that it gets, flows through to you.
Okay.
Is that
I
the kind of, sorry, I was just gonna ask, is that the kind of thing that would get added to a job description? So when positions get turned over, that doesn't get lost in the fray?
Probably
They
not.
probably should be.
Good point, Darla.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
I
It
would
should be.
suggest, in terms of the reminder, I might say, speak to Chris. Let's add that to his list of to-dos, and it could be twice yearly in terms of attendance for the meetings. Passing that on to Jen, but also Jen, I'd ask you to add that to your calendar as well,
Yep.
given your organizational skills. And just if you don't receive that in a timely fashion, when make a note of when you'd like to cut that check and when you want to pay
Sure.
people, and get that information from Chris if he
Okay.
hasn't given it to you.
Yeah,
Seems like
but we also
that
have
way
to-
that way it's a catch-all, and we
Sure.
know that it gets done.
Absolutely.
But we also have like Diane Cushman who needs to get paid. I don't know who else,
Right.
you know, so we need to figure out that process to make sure it gets through to Jen that, you know, they get paid. And I don't know how you normally do that, Jen, but
Well, the thing that's tricky for me is that everybody's done a little bit differently. So that's what makes it a little bit harder, because you guys are paid through payroll, and that's something that I do every week, so that I'm thinking like, oh, okay, that needs to be dealt with. But when we do board payouts, those are done through accounts payable, and those are done only every 2 weeks on your meeting dates, and that we have to create a you know, Darla is grinning because she knows exactly what has to be done to get that done. And it's just a matter of, it's literally a matter of somebody doing it. So it's not a difficult task, but it's the matter of printing the piece of paper, getting it coded, getting it signed, putting it in the bills pile. So it's something that is easy enough to do, but because it's not done, you know, it's just a different process is all. So it's just wrapping my head around it being.
So Jen, would you have suggestions to improve the way that that's handled? Are there easier ways to do it that you would like to suggest to make changes to make it easier for you, or make it just an overall better system? And you don't have to answer now, but maybe that's something you want to think about. Like, I think we all want to be as streamlined as possible and have everything be efficient. So if there are ways that you can look at it and say, you know what, it'd be really good to be able to do this, like suggest that to us. You know, I think that would be a good way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more people that have it on their calendar, the better.
Yeah.
With the idea that between a group of us, we can get it taken care of.
Okay.
well, and maybe we put that on the chair of each committee just to make sure, like in 6
Yeah.
months, that's been dealt with. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Is
I mean,
it
they're getting
quarterly or
extra-
is it 6 months?
We are getting the extra $5 a meeting.
Well, and it's not all boards too. It would only be
Right.
Well, so do we have? I
So
guess
this would be the planning and the DRB. So that's what I don't know. I don't know if you're going to set the same rate and then.
and it's
is
the
it-
same amount of people, right, for the DRB versus
Right.
the ZBA. So that just is a carryover in terms of that budget.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'd be
Minimum
reluctant
wage
to
did
put
go
it on
up.
the chair to be responsible for.
Well, I'm not saying be responsible for doing it, but just making
Right.
sure like that, like at the 6th month that they talk to make sure
Right.
that it's been submitted. Somebody, whoever's dealing with it, that it gets submitted.
I mean, is Jen, the minutes are submitted to Sharon, right, as the clerk, and put in the file?
Well, everything I think right now, nothing. It used to all get printed, but now because everything's on the website,
So she could go back and find out the attendance.
And
as
there,
long as it's all up to date on there. The only trick I have is the trouble that I have is drafts. If drafts aren't finalized, you know.
But the draft at least has the attendance who was at that meeting that night.
Assuming that is accurate, sure, absolutely.
there's an internal drive in the network where the approved minutes are kept, and that's pretty up to date, or nearly so. And these last few things aren't in there, but
Maybe this ought to be a board goal for 2021 to try to get a more streamlined of paying our volunteer paid little
Yeah.
boards.
I agree,
think if
Bill.
you have a select board that's appointed to, you guys each have these duties that one goes to fire department, one goes to, maybe have one person going to these committees, and then that person is in charge of saying to each chair, okay, tell me, each meeting you need to record whether you're there or not, who made an attendance, and then make a piece of paper up or whatever saying, this is who came to this meeting, and then that way Jen could collect them in the office, and when she's ready to pay, she's got them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Right, 'cause
even
it has-
better
it has
than
to
do- Go ahead, Ian.
Sorry, Michelle. I was going to say, because it is quite a confusing tally, with possibly 2 meetings a month with varied attendance. You do have to be fairly on the ball in terms of keeping a list of who was there and how much each of those people are going to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it almost sounds like a spreadsheet, and you could put the dates of
Yeah.
meetings and say whoever's present and who's the chair, and everybody's going to be $10 a meeting, and the chair gets $15 a meeting, and then 6 months you send that
Right.
spreadsheet to Jen.
Like I don't send Jen one every week or every 2 weeks. I send her at the end of the month.
Yep.
my tally, and sometimes every 2 months if it's
Mhm.
1 month was really light. So
I don't have a
But you-
problem with taking on a spreadsheet of that and just keeping track of it as each meeting progresses. It'd be a very simple thing to do.
Yeah, I wonder, can we create a spreadsheet for the different boards with all the names on it and then have it shared so that the chairs or whoever's in charge of taking minutes can check off who's there?
A Google Sheet would do that.
Yeah, you can do it in this shared drive, like, because you guys can edit this.
Right.
You just don't put an expiration date on it.
Right.
And so
I mean,
you
that
could
might
just
be
put
something to
everybody's
do.
name, and then the top could be the date,
Right.
the date that they met.
And they just put
That
an
way.
X for whoever's present.
Right. And then you could just access that. And if it wasn't filled in, then you could send a email to Chris and the chair saying there's no attendance in the planning
Right.
commission sheet. Can someone fill that in so we can get you paid?
Yeah, I think that at least if it's all in one spot, it's one document, it's not going to get lost.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on this one?
I guess Jen and I can work out the logistics of how that document would get hatched and where it would be and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, if we can do that, I think that's great. Then everybody's not having their own.
Sounds good.
Okay. Planning and zoning, we done with that? Any more?
Well, I guess, can't we go back and discuss that planning salary line? It's just for budget. This is for budget. I'd like to make that 20,000.
Well, you guys are going to talk about salaries, right?
Well, so there's no sense in putting it at 20,000 if we decide, okay, maybe he's going to get 23 this year. I don't know. I mean, we'll fill this in after we talk tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
We'll do the one next because Sharon is here.
Yeah, and so she doesn't have to stay up really late.
It's only 8:04.
Well, come on, you know how that works with us.
If we started at 6, we'd be only 7.
Oh, stop that now.
Stop
Come
it,
on now.
Tolly.
We all had dinner, I hope.
Yes.
No.
There must be something in the drawers there, Joel.
No,
Brett's probably got a stash of something.
There's a power bar somewhere.
Exactly. That's what I was
No, they're up in the meeting upstairs. I'm down here. So.
Darn it.
Okay. So training,
Okay.
you dropped that to 300. That's good.
I mean,
Okay, this is my question about the supplies. I understood your
Yeah.
your comment about splitting it.
Yeah. So mine, the 2,300 I came up with, calculated out the things that the treasurer typically pays for, which right now are tax bills, W-2s and 1099s, checks and deposit slips. What was the other thing? I think there was one other thing. So usually I buy like checks and deposit slips once a year. I just buy one big bulk buy. And then tax bills obviously once a year. Same thing with W-2s and 1099s. And then just generic supplies like toner and whatnot for the treasurer office. Sharon can speak better to some clerk stuff, but I know that with the new system, we're going through books a lot faster. So,
which is why I put that note in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I
I've
see
already
about 5. How many more do you
already-
need?
I'm going to need at least a couple more, maybe 3 more before the next fiscal year. So, and they're not cheap.
What are they?
So
They're
the
land record books.
So curiously, why are we going through more books with the COTS procedure?
Because it's 1 page per page. It's not 2 per page.
No, the town of Bristol used to make
we
out
kind of
doing
stuck
2
our
per
way
page.
through that for the longest time. And once we changed to this scanning mechanism, you can do the double per page.
Right.
Right.
No, I totally get that.
So wait, so what do you want that? What do you want that to be then? What was?
Well,
so
I tried
it
to
was-
put a number in there and it wouldn't let me, but I feel
Well, there
like
you
it
go.
should
There's your
stay-
answer.
Yeah. It should probably stay at 4,000 because if I do 8 books, that's like $2,500 right there just for land records.
All right.
Okay.
So, and then of course
Okay.
I have toner for the printer that I bought under the grant to use for my office and for elections. And then of course there's other supplies. Of course, my election supplies goes to a different budget. So, but this is, toner and
Yeah.
I was trying to think what else. The books are the
Paper.
big thing. Paper, yeah.
Paper.
Copier, paper,
What?
and
Why
that
was
kind
the
of
Why
stuff.
was the training knocked down?
Everything
Okay.
at this point is pretty much virtual.
Oh, okay.
A lot
Right.
is free at this
So look,
current moment, but
Okay.
well, I'm going to have the 2 little webinars that I took through VLCT are going to be, I think they're like $40 a piece. So
Okay.
they're still charging. So
Right.
there is some there.
Okay. Yeah. So you want some budget, but it doesn't necessarily need to
Yeah,
be.
it doesn't have to be huge. No,
Okay.
I'm not like going to go to California for a conference or
not
anything.
$600.
Come on.
So Sharon, the paper for like the marriage certificates and the birth certificates, the certified, is that stuff that's covered under here as well, or do you get that?
Yes, but it's not that expensive because the certified paper is, what is it? 250 or $25.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it's not a huge amount.
Okay. All right.
What's comp
Okay.
program? Computer programming?
Computer program. That's the
That's where we
That-
charge our emails and NEMRIC and
Is that for you and her?
correct.
Okay.
Right. And the money for COTS for the land records program comes out of a different place. You don't see it on here.
okay.
Of course.
Is that coming out of that line, Sharon or Jen? That Dominion, that firewall people that we have?
Dominion Tech.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Is there another, that 3424 finish out this past year here, is $5,000 gonna be enough?
Assuming that it doesn't, I think NEMRIC went up in price, which is why some of us are under budgeted for this year. Because I think they increased their, but I could be wrong. I can double check it, but I'd like to think it will be, but it might not be.
I mean, you
And we
spent more
just got,
6 months than you did all of last year in that line.
and
Well-
the work they did in December, we just got the bill for it. It's almost $1,800
So
for
that's-
Chris's crash and for the work they came to sort our computers out.
That's 1,800 added on to the 34 here.
No, well,
Not all of it. Some of it, probably about half of it is ours and the other half is Chris's for his laptop that died.
Okay.
Okay. Well, check to make sure that we're enough with that.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Office equipment, the copiers that come out of a different budget?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jen, I don't know if you remember, but when I talked to him earlier, I think our contract for the copiers 5 years is up in the next fiscal year, but I don't know exactly when.
Yeah, it's typically in the fall, like in October.
Okay. So I don't know if that'll go up or if
Well,
it'll
that's
stay
not for
flat.
this line. That's,
Right,
this
but
is
for
like-
wherever it comes out of.
yeah.
Where the line is.
Can you drop your postage more given the low numbers in 2020?
Well, part of the problem we're having with the postage is the new machine is not working the same way as it did before. You have to actually pick your department. So the postage hasn't been going to the different departments. So we have a little glitch there. Most of it's been going to admin.
Whoopsie.
So it's all catching up. It's
Thanks,
just
Valerie.
Okay. All right. So let's leave that. So you dropped it down, just figuring.
I think, yeah, we guess because of the election that it would be higher postage. So,
Okay.
because it's just a one election year, we drop it. back.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, does the postage for people, the land records for people who don't
Right.
send envelopes, we have to pay for that too.
Right.
But that hasn't been real significant yet. Most people do send envelopes, but we do have quite a few that don't. So we have to use our own envelopes and pay postage to send their stuff back.
What's record rest?
Restoration.
Can we just take that line out if there's nothing's happening?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
And Jen, that's now through COTS, right? I mean, we don't have to.
So the microfilming Sharon and I were talking about today. So the bank, that 165 covers our safe deposit boxes that we have that have the microfilm. And we have to really look into whether we could actually get rid of or destroy any of that. But right now, there's no additional cost. We used to have to send books away to get the microfilm.
Right.
Now we don't. You're right, Michelle. With the COT system does that backup for us.
Okay.
Through what they have.
Okay.
Jen, the record restoration. So all the books have been done?
So Sharon got back to book. I'll let you fill in the blank, Sharon, because I can't remember.
I believe it's book 50, which is 40 years that we have in the system. It's not indexed yet, but the documents are there.
I just was like, Ian wanted to take it out, so we don't think we'll ever restore any more books. I just don't want
Well,
to.
so it's just it's different, Joel. I think what happened a long time ago is you used to actually budget to put money in a record restoration fund, and now the state requires you for every page you record, you have to put $4 in a record restoration fund. So we have a well-established record restoration fund because even before the state required that, I think we at least put $1 or $2 a page that we recorded each year into the record restoration fund. So that's the fund that Sharon's talking about that pays the monthly fees for COTS. And right now, because of how much recordings we're doing and what we're paying COT, it becomes about a wash. So we haven't really lost money in that fund yet. So when we do, like when you look at revenues and you look at clerk fees, what happens is Sharon will give me a report that says this is how many pages we've recorded in the last 6 months, and then we cut a check to deposit in that record restoration fund. It's just a savings account that you can't see, but we don't actually make a budgeted deposit to the fund, if that makes sense.
But at this point, Jen, we're not sending books off to have them microfilmed or whatever. That's everything now is done through COTS.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. Any more questions on this budget? Okay, we ready to move on to listers? Or, yeah, listers.
So this looks the same and it looks different in a couple of different. This is in an instance if you were to, we propose this as if you were to hire an assessor. And that's what the change is here.
Right.
If you don't want to do that, then we need to go back and do some more calculations. Excuse me.
And it wasn't clear to me on that first line of salaries whether that $4,200 was total or per lister.
Mark and I had that same discussion, Valerie, because I had the same question, and he felt like that would cover all of them.
And that's assuming that's because there would be additional professional assessor support.
Correct, which is in line 16.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, the software line, is that through the state? That's the state
Some of it's
Okay.
their state, some of it's their NEMRIC that they pay
Okay.
for,
Mhm.
their email, that type of.
Okay, and their postage line, can we reduce that? Are they not sending a lot of mail?
Well, they're in the same boat about the postage machine that the clerk's office is in. They send their change of appraisals out once a year, so they certainly do have some postage.
Mhm. For the last 2 years, it was 159 and 135. I mean, I just don't know.
Because these are, sorry, can we drop this now?
Yeah, I tried to put my initials in there. I didn't always remember.
I appreciate that for sure. So you want this to go to 200?
I mean, unless they think they're really going to need it more than that.
No.
I think you could go to 300 maybe, Michelle.
No, it's fine with me.
300, Joel?
Any little bit helps.
Instead of 4.
What is this?
What was this one? The telephone. I asked this question only because with a new system, is this going to change the amount of their bill?
Well, didn't we talk about putting the telephone for the office in all one location?
Rather than having their separate line.
Separating it out because
yes,
it was
we
too
did.
much.
You want to get rid of the 2486 line, Jen, because that rings directly to the Lister's office.
Say that. Sorry, Joel. I missed the first part of what you said.
Remember when I said about the phone system, and I was remember the old 2486, and that still rings right into the Lister's office. And you mentioned a month or so ago, possibly about.
I asked them to remove that. And
They have removed it because I've gotten complaints that people have been calling it and it doesn't work. So I know it's been shut off. They have a different number now.
That's only Joel complaining.
So Sharon, they got a
Sharon,
different number?
Yes, they have
Well-
a different number. We'd have to look on their phone, but
Right.
it's not one that we give out. But I know the other number isn't working because I've had complaints.
And
unfortunately, the Waitsfield based in telecom has that number in the phone book, which I didn't know.
Which number? The
486. Yeah.
Oh. So, question then: they're on the menu though when you call in.
Yes.
That says if you want to reach the listers,
They're
hit
like
whatever.
number 3 or something, or
3 or 4 or 5 or something.
yeah, I don't remember which one
Whichever
they
it
are,
is.
3 or 4.
Well, if you're getting complaints, they know how to get around it.
They can
Listen
call
to
the regular
menu,
number.
Right. Please listen to our menu as items may have changed.
Right.
And then everyone still doesn't listen.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I thought now that you're saying that, didn't we say because we weren't charging zoning for their phone use because like he gets phone calls, but he doesn't pay any phone fee. Am I making this conversation up?
No, we had.
I could be.
No, we definitely had a conversation about the phone. I just don't remember what the result is, and how do you allocate the bill that we get to each department?
Percentage.
Okay.
It's
So
a
they
pain in
need
the butt.
to be they need to be part of the percentage.
Because I guess I thought we had said that because I had said exactly what Sharon said, which is it's a pain in the butt because it's an inherited percentage that happened back when 2486 was an actual calling number, and since the phone options have changed, I guess I thought for some reason we were putting the entire phone budget under the general.
I think that's
the
So I
general
don't- my
line,
budget doesn't have a phone line on it.
right? Because Valerie doesn't have one and Chris didn't have one,
Well, then I think that's what we need to do.
so maybe we remove it from like
right.
the clerk line and this line, and make sure that it's all in the general line.
Yep,
Is that?
makes sense to me. If you can't figure out what
And
percentage is who, it just
Sharon will love it because it'll be so much easier to process the bill.
Yes,
For
it's
sure.
a pain in the butt right now.
Okay, so
Let's
I'm gonna
make
take
things
that
easier for ourselves.
Yes.
So is that the $900? Is that
Oh no, wait.
No, you took out the 3,300 for software. Don't do that.
I'm cheating. Wrong line. So excited. It's a lot of money. Yeah.
So 300 for legal fees that we've never used.
Right.
But I don't want to leave them at zero just in case, because $300 will do 1 hour.
Right.
So the big question is the professional fees, and if you are planning on hiring or whatnot an assessor.
Well, I don't think we know that yet because I think Joel and Mark and
we still need
whoever
to
is getting
circle back
together.
with our team
Yeah.
briefly. And the next task is for me to come up with a kind of an outline, a scope of work type of thing for the committee to review before sending it on to the select board.
Okay.
But
So
I
I
mean,
would leave Jen.
I thought that the conversation was driven that was the route we were headed.
Right.
So
I
that
would say
budget
leave
for
it in
that.
there. Leave it in
Right.
there, Jen. We can always change it in January, but I would leave it.
Maintenance.
That number fluctuates, Jen, depending on how much change we have, correct?
Right. I mean, and maybe it's an overstep to increase, but the last two.
Not given the last 2 years.
Right. I don't know what this year will be like. I mean, Craig was pretty well, following those maps and making those changes. And I assume that Mark or Dave or Patty is keeping track of those things, but
Yeah.
if they're not, then it'll be minimal for the year.
If they're not taking care of them, do they need to be taken care of another way?
I mean, that's really who that goes with. That's not, I mean, from time to time, like Sharon might find something because a researcher comes in and they'll say, this doesn't look right or doesn't make sense. And she can make a copy of it. But we've always given it to the lister's office for them to do further research and work together with LaRose's. So it really does go with the properties, and since they're working on the properties, it makes sense that it goes with them.
But I mean, would the LaRose's or a professional surveyor need to have a more active role in helping upkeep the maps?
I mean, they would sit and meet with Craig, and Craig would tell them all the changes and give them all the copies. And then they would further research. So that's what the bill would be. But they don't further research unless we bring an issue to their attention.
Got it.
That we found.
What we used to do, Valerie, was just what Jen was saying, was you might have a split of a piece of land and, the farmstead sold off 5 acres. And then we would assign that a new parcel number. And then we give that, when Ken Weston was doing it, I'd give that to Ken and he would put that on the map. Draw that on the map. And then
got it.
The map. I'm not sure, guys, $4,200 for salaries. I know we're that line 16 we're looking for, but I take that and divide that by 3. That's only 87 hours a year. Doing the maps things and some other stuff. I'm not sure $4,200 is enough money. I mean, I look at from 12/30 already, we spent $6,800, and that doesn't include right there. That was from July 1 to December 30th, just the other day, and that doesn't have any grievance hearings in the spring. Doesn't have any. Probably has some inspections in there, but I'm not sure $4,200 is enough.
I probably agree with you, Joel, but also remember this is the first time that we've ever paid 3 people to do the lister's job.
Right.
In 10 years.
Right. And it's $6,800. How long have we had 3 listers?
Forever, but.
Well, no, for a couple of months now.
Right, but I mean, they're all learning and training, and
right.
I think the hours are definitely influxed a little.
I mean, you get I mean, yeah, the year we had 490 grievance hearings. I was there for 3 weeks for 55, 60 hours a week. And, but that was exceptional.
Right. But I mean, the last,
They've only had maybe a day or two, a day.
right. The last, I mean, like there was a grievance last year that was done and there was only one. And when we did the reappraisal, there was only 5 grievance hearings.
I'm a little skeptical of that 42 hours. If you want them to do some stuff like input into the computer and stuff like that, that we don't want to pay $25 an hour at. I'm a little skeptical. I don't know if we're going to get a lot for $4,200. I don't want to go to 17, no way, heck, but I'd like to maybe go 6 or 7 there.
I mean, you said, like you said, that's 87 hours
Per person
a year.
per year.
Per person for the year.
So that's about an hour and a half a week.
Or it's 5 hours a week for one
Right.
person.
5 hours for one person. Correct.
Just about.
I mean, they may not take all 3 of them
No,
to do the job. May just
but
be
they
one of
split
them.
it up, and one does the computer work and one does the you
Right.
got to do the drawings on the map after you go out to the field. You got to draw it on the back of the folder, and I'm not sure we want to pay $25 an hour to do that. And
Well, that drawing, that's that's done on a computer now. We don't do any hand
yeah,
stuff.
that's the old way we used to
So-
draw them all. So
I mean, I think
Where
this
does
is, again, if you're going to go the assessor route, it's going to be a learning curve
yep,
to figure out. I agree, Joel. I'm not sure. I'm thinking $4,200 is quite enough considering we don't necessarily know how it will all pan out.
maybe we don't move it tonight, but maybe we zoom back onto this if the budget could have, at the end of the period, we could support another couple of thousand there without making it hit the taxpayers too bad. At the end of the budget, maybe we can discuss that. I want to be leery of that. That's all.
Okay.
I mean, Jen, you and Valerie got that thing I emailed you today.
Yeah, except the only thing I did notice, Joel, was the difference is that they want to hire someone on their staff, not a contractor, is what it looks like.
Yeah.
from that ad.
I just thought that was a good starting.
But it definitely could, I mean, maybe there's a job, I'm sure there's a job description out there, which wouldn't hurt to look at, right?
Right. So, okay.
Okay. Do we have a capital improvement plan stuff, Val?
Yes, let me get my screen.
Thank you, Jen. Thank
Yes.
you, Sharon.
Thanks, Jen and Sharon.
Yes, thank you, Jen.
Yes, thank Jen and Sharon.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see. Wrong screen. Let's see here. Okay, bear with me for a moment here. There we go. All right, so I emailed this out to folks this afternoon. This is something I've been working on for a bit. You've seen different earlier iterations as it was shaping up, and I've tried to make it a little bit more functional. But here's the idea: is to take the major capital budgets that we have. This fire department, the apparatus. Here's their equipment, and this reflects their current plan that was presented a couple weeks ago. The highway capital equipment. This is in flux because Eric is going to meet with the equipment committee to sort this out a little bit more. Capital roads, this needs to be sorted out a little bit more. We know that there are some major projects coming up, and so here this will be an opportunity to list those and map them out and what we think they're going to cost, and see what kind of money we are going to have available to do this. What these formulas do is it takes the current balance, for example, and then this number here goes down to the allocation that has been approved in the budget and going forward. And so these formulas up here are linked. So these balance formulas are up here are linked to those allocations down here. So as we go forward and look ahead at what our capital needs are, and we can see what we expect to allocate into those reserve funds, we can decide, we can visually see if we think we're going to have enough money or not. Are we going to have too much? Do we need as much in a particular year, or do we need to build up more for a larger project? And so these are just filled in for the major accounts that we have. And then down here, this is the part that was the more challenging to get together. It was the debt, because it's the contribution to those reserve funds and then our annual debt obligations that really define our capacity for capital improvements without additional borrowing, and what we have available to actually execute projects. And this number down here combines those two figures, our annual debt, which is here, these are the annual debt, and then up above the annual contributions to the reserve fund. So you can see at a glance that we're pretty consistent from year to year, about $960,000 in capital improvement expenditures. But what I also wanted to get a handle on was looking forward, because we were talking about taking on some new serious projects and what's going to be our capacity to do that. In the near future, it doesn't look like it's going to improve an awful lot. We can't change the debt structure. That we don't have flexibility there, but we do have flexibility here in a way. What we choose to commit to the reserve funds. And so that way, looking back up to these projections, are there opportunities to delay or modify some of our planned projects? Do they still match our priorities? So this is just a tool to try to take a big picture snapshot of our current and projected capital needs over the next 5 years. And to help put that together, I'm scrolling back down to debt, these numbers are tied to this tab, and this tab is intended to list the current loans. But what I wanted to see was beyond 5 years. And I'm going to try to reduce the scale here, if I can figure out how to do that with this screen.
Under view.
Right. So I want to reduce it a little bit so you can see more of it. And where's the little bar thing? Here we go. I wanted to see how far out we go, to see where does it start to lighten up. And I'm going to try to switch my screen view. I have it on, let's see here. Maybe I'll reduce it a little bit more. You won't be able to read much of it probably, but at least you get the big picture of what we're doing here. So these are our current debt obligations, and the main focus now, the water and sewer departments, they're enterprise funds, and so they affect only those ratepayers, and of course the debt assigned to those departments or districts, it gets calculated based upon the different rates. So it's kind of hard you can't really combine them easily for a big picture view of how, say, the folks both in the police district, water district, and sewer district would be affected by particular debt loads, because it's affected by rate structures. But you can see that here our debt load is, it reduces slightly going forward, but it's still pretty up there in the low 200,000s. And we really don't begin to see opening up of capacity until 2032. Well, a little bit less than that. I'd say maybe 2027.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be on this board by then.
Right.
Wrong.
I just wanted to get a handle on it, for us to get a handle on what our commitments are and how this affects our capacity to take on projects. And if we can't do it, I don't know. This would help, I think, strength in any kind of grant application to demonstrate that our limited capacity and that grants would be really essential.
Can I just say, Val, that this is depressing.
It is. It is.
I mean, to see it in that visual, how far out you're talking. It's like,
I'm a visual
It
creature.
just proves that I'm not totally crazy. I'm just throwing that out there.
We never thought you were crazy.
Right. Right. So, so this is something we're going to come back to. There's still some areas that need some work, but hopefully it will be a useful tool, particularly in things like the sidewalk fund. And you know, we can choose to do certain things differently. We can take a look at our appropriations. Are there opportunities to make some adjustments that are meaningful? I mean, a little tweak here and there might not make a big difference.
Valerie,
Yeah.
these 21, 22, we're looking at 23, and as Michelle says, they're going out through there by 5 years.
Yeah.
You have appropriated basically past allocations you've left them the same, correct?
Correct.
I see like the highway capital is 135 and the Capitol building is 30.
Right.
Okay.
And this does not reflect infusions from undesignated reserve funds or undesignated fund balance. That might be opportunities. Like we did last year, we had opportunities to inject some additional money into some of these funds. And that might be something we have an eye to going forward. But I think this tool, it's useful for me to be able to look ahead and see kind of the big picture and what help us plan ahead. And we're making our capital investments in line with our priorities.
So all the sidewalks you've got there on lines 56 through 68, those are what we've done so far, or what
those are based on the plan that Peter Coffey put together about 3 years ago.
Yep. So, and we all got a message from the voters a couple of years ago that, what was it? They wanted 50,000 a year spent or 60,000 a year spent on sidewalks. So that's what you're budgeting. That's what somewhat you're.
This reflects that, and this shows based upon our allocation of I believe it's $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That even with those projects, we end up with a healthy balance at the end and then we add that 35, say, and you get another 90. So now we're up to 97. You spend it down. We still have 70.
Are you saying we should spend more like 40 than 35?
I'm not saying anything at this point. I'm just saying this is a tool.
Yep.
I think at some point when we have more of this information together, then we do take a look at the big picture and where we want to consider adjustments, if any.
Well, Joel, if we have a healthy balance, maybe you can get that sidewalk on Pine Street.
I don't think the balance is that healthy.
Let's stick with the water line first, and can we go to that capital?
Maybe the east end of maybe just the east end, Rachel.
I'm gonna serve coffee off my porch when they put the sidewalk in. You guys, I did ask Jen last week or week before last, and I informed Valerie. I just asked my loan people at work just to get a jumping off point. This is nothing. I know we're not going to borrow money from them because it's too expensive. We'd go to a bond bank, but $850,000 water bond for all of Pine Street at 2.5% would be about a 40. Did I say 40 or $60,000 payment a year for 20 years? So I asked Jen, what would $60,000 to the budget, water budget, do in our rates?
Well, there you see it right here. Here's the debt right now, currently for the water.
Right.
So, and here's.
She said one of those are being paid off. I thought she said the North Street
After this year, yeah.
After this year.
That'll alleviate that $10,000.
Yeah, right there.
The 88 there. Okay.
So it drops from 96 to 86.
Okay.
So
this annual water debt expense isn't that number that I gave you, just rough talking points, was it, Jen?
No.
No. I guess when we do our water budget, I'd like to know, okay, if we decide to do Pine Street and it's an $800,000 project, is my water rate it's about $85 every 3 months. Is it going to 95? Is it going to 105? I think, you know, as I told Valerie, you think if you said my water rate's going up 10%, my taxes are going up 10%, I'd scream bloody murder. If you say my water rates are going up 10%, that's from $85 to $808.50 more. I'm not, you know, real shocked about that at the 10% on water versus 10% on taxes. And I think that's the conversation I want to have as the board is if we want to talk about getting some of these off the list, as Alan said, Pine Street's the number one, and then he's got others he wants to get off. We're just pushing the can down the road if we don't get started doing some of these.
Right. And that amount is paid only by folks in the water district, correct?
That's correct.
Right. But the secondary piece to that, Joel, is that you have to, like, it's not like we're just going to do Pine Street for the water. So the issue becomes that you're then bonding some from the general fund, which we've already decided is kind of on debt overload.
You mean for the drainage? You mean for drainage?
Right.
Right.
So how do you do that project to satisfy upgrading the water system, but not, you know, like, because you're saying you as a water user wouldn't care that your water rate went up 10%, but then when you consider however much it's going to cost to do the drainage and the road rebuild and reshape and the repave that would come potentially from the general fund, that's going to up your tax bill.
Right. I mean, the paving's going to get done.
As a water user getting a double duty.
Yeah, the pavement's got to get done whether we put a pipe underground or not. It's getting so bad. As Eric said, it's the worst street we have.
I just think that because the project is more than just water is what makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out how to allocate it appropriately and evaluate it appropriately is all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not top priority because I totally agree that it is. I just think it makes it difficult when we know there's more pieces and parts than just the water that needs to get done.
And just to throw additional consideration, for those folks that are in the downtown district, the downtown sewer district, they also have the police district on top of the sewer and on top of the water, on top of taxes. So that small district gets multiply hit.
Yeah.
Or shouldn't say hit, multiply affected.
Yeah.
And that's also, it's a very tender part of our town.
Right. And I also think we have the big unknown of what's going to happen with the school in their budget and how that'll affect taxes.
Mm-hmm. On the bright side, and this is down the road a bit, no pun intended, Stony Hill. That's going to be a huge infusion to the grand list and as a water user. Once it's online and the housing's online. But it's a while. So it'll be interesting to see how that, what positive effect that has on our capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But back to Jen's comment about the drainage on Pine Street, we haven't even discussed, we don't have a number for that yet.
Right.
And are we going to shock ourselves, or are we going to do some drainage that Addison County's planning wanted us to do along the back of the park? And I'm more towards Peaker on that than myself. But I just think we've been wanting to do Pine Street for well over 12 years since I've been on the board. Furman Bouvier was going to pave that thing 10 years ago, and they told him, no, we're going to pave that. We're going to put a water line down through there. The residents of that street are sick and tired of hearing that. We're going to either pave it and let it sit underneath, and then when you vibrate and pave it, like that happened over on the corner of Maple and Pine, that's how the leak that cost us $5,000-$6,000 because they rolled the pavement. And that pipe is that fragile. We need to talk about it.
Okay, that's the water budget discussion and the general fund discussion, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't really delved into some of the other areas yet, but anyway, I just wanted to show you that this is what I've been poking around with, and hopefully it'll be a useful tool.
It looks
No, I
like
think
it
this
looks
looks
like a
great,
lot of
Val.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Thanks
it.
for
I like
doing
it
that.
out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, yes, it can look depressing, but it also gives us leverage, as Val says, in terms of grant applications, and also helps us focus, I think, on what we're able to do and what we should be doing, given the amount of debt that we have and how it's paid off over decades, potentially.
Right.
So yeah, I think it will be great to be able to sort of look to this to be able to see what we really want to focus on and how we can move things around to improve and work with the projects that we want to do.
Right. Yeah, I know that the reserve funds are really important budgeting tools. You may find that some allocations can be adjusted and reallocated elsewhere to at certain points in time to boost certain capacity somewhere else if we need to,
Right.
without affecting the bottom line. Or maybe affecting the bottom line. Anyway. So maybe in January, when we get a better handle on some of the other things, we can come back to this. And in the meantime, I'd be interested if you have a chance to look at it. And because I did email the whole the raw Excel file to everybody, so if you have a chance to look at it, and if you give me if you have any feedback, then I'm all ears.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Val.
Thanks, Val.
Okay. Are you ready to move on? Okay, review of preliminary draft town meeting and police district warnings. So let's see.
Hopefully folks had a chance to look at those. I think the police district one is fairly straightforward. It does include 2 informational meetings. I think the original thought was having the one in February be more focused on the police district, but given the scope of things, both of them might end up being very, open to police district and overall town meeting topics. And then on the town meeting one, here we're trying to adapt our traditional warning structure into an Australian ballot structure. And some of the articles just don't lend themselves to Australian ballot. So I'm curious, like the setting of the select board salaries, how that get dealt with as an Australian ballot article.
Is it something that can just be kept the same?
Just not even have it there, or have an article that sets it.
I think we have to have the article that sets it, like whether it says, whatever we currently get, $500 and.
Or just authorize the select board to set their salaries and other, maybe.
At the same rate it was in 2019 or 2020, 2021.
I think that's the way to go, as Ian said, we put the amount, we authorize the select board to set the salary same as 2019.
But I think you need to put the numbers in there, or people are going to say, what were the numbers in 2019?
Right.
Okay, yep, good point, Sharon. So it could say $5 or whatever it was, we get a meeting and so much a year.
It's $500, $10 a meeting, $15 for the chair.
And say, put that down as 2019, and we recommend same as last year, just same salary adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that we're not going to get any pushback or issue with that.
So have it say same as FY 2021 and then go on to list the actual numbers.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, just so it's clear to everyone reading. They know the enormity of our salaries.
So it's just.
What was that, Val? What'd you say?
I don't think that's ever been actually spelled out anywhere in the town report. It's always been an aggregated lump sum.
And they usually ask us at the town meeting what our current pay is. Right. To tell them, so.
And then there's discussion, and then it never changes.
Well, let's change it.
Let's change it now. How much would you like, Peter?
And now so we can go take vacation.
I don't. I don't do it for the money. I can tell you that right now.
So Val, I have a question on article. Well,
Yeah, they're all, the numbering
7,
is
8,
all.
9, 10, whatever. Why are those set out separately than the one that has all the organizations listed? Is it because they're asking for?
Because they asked for more.
The
right?
ones at the
They-
top of page 2?
Yeah.
I started to do that and I crossed off the ones on the list to show, to make the connection that those that are listed used to be on that list. And so I think the plan is to take all of those in that list in Article XX.
Whatever it is, yeah.
List them independently. And I was just showing that this is what it might look like if we did it. But
Okay.
following the structure of the way the other articles are worded, because it's usually, the articles are on the warning for a new or renewing organization, and there's a description of their purpose.
Mhm.
And that description of purpose might not always be remembered in this list. And so for me right now, and I'm not familiar with all of them, so I can't make up what the purposes of them are. I can maybe guess, but so how we transform that combined list of appropriations to individual articles. And this list, I don't know who's submitted letters and who hasn't yet. So there might be some that won't be carried over because they haven't submitted letters. So this.
Well, I was going to say, Valerie, I can work on that. And we do have a list of what each one does in our town report. It's near the back. It says what each one is. But
Okay.
if you'd like me to take a stab at that and list all those out, I can do
Good.
that.
Thank you.
And we can pull in if we don't have, for some reason, we don't have it in the town report, we can pull it from nonprofit organizations.
Yeah,
I was
and I
actually
think all of
looking at
them-
that today.
All of them are in there, I believe, because we don't have any new ones.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so Valerie, is the old town reports, like last year's had, I'm gonna say Article 24 had like 15 organizations all in. And they had
Right.
them out. And then Fred would read it once and then he'd say, do I have to read it again? And so now are those gonna be listed as 1 vote or 15 votes?
15 votes.
15
and one
votes.
moderator.
Be like a line item veto.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
so-
how we're,
You're going to
We
vote
got
on
3 pages.
everyone individually, Joel.
Yeah, that's what
just
I
like
want.
they do in
Just-
Virgins. It's
Okay.
always been that way in Virgins. It's been on Australian ballot and every single one is listed separately.
Okay.
Which I actually think is a worthwhile way to maybe look at this. You know, it's sort of it's a little unfair. You know, you at a town meeting, you're voting on a good chunk of money, and your percentage of people that might attend the town meeting is pretty small. And that of that percentage, you might be a nay in those yays, you know, and so it's even smaller. And you've then decided for all those organizations that the voting population of Bristol supports those organizations. And you may not support those organizations. And so it's at least this way it gives voters the ability to choose to support organizations or not. And I also think it gives more sort of calling to the organizations to come forth and to detail why Bristol residents should support them. And I say that as an organization or the head of an organization that's in that list. And I try very hard to have a very detailed list of exactly what CORE has done in the past year so people know. And I think people can see that. But oftentimes, just as a resident looking at that list, like Val said, like she might not know what all those organizations do. I think a lot of residents feel that. So the more information we can put forth for the organizations, or the more that we can ask them, like, hey, why should Bristol residents support you? I think that's a good thing for the residents and for voters.
Yeah, but that only works if they read it. If they go to vote and they just go down through the list.
I know.
Oh, seriously.
No, I know.
How many people are going to go to the back of the book and read, other than the little snippets that we come up with, are going to go to the back of the book and read what everybody actually does?
No, they're
A small
not.
percentage. I know.
Yeah.
But at least it's there. It's there for reference, and people can look at it if they want to. And especially now, you're at a time where you're voting where perhaps your financial situation has changed in the past year, and so you're really thinking about that, and you have this opportunity. But yeah, and we'll see. I mean, it's an experiment, kind of, to see how the votes go. It'll be interesting to see what those numbers are, what the percentages of yes and no's are. And I'm assuming that if for any particular one of those, if there are more no's than yeses, then that entity doesn't get the funding. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, they
Okay. Yeah, which we've never really had before because it's always been a floor vote.
Right. Hey, Jen, just a quick question. If, will we know before March whether there will be any undesignated fund balance for this year? I'm sure she's on.
She's asleep.
No,
we will
she's-
know. We
will
will
know.
have. Yeah, we'll know what we have for money left over from the
Previous year.
I think it's a year behind.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know they went through the audit, so she should be able to, I assume we would be able to know that number or have
Yeah.
something in mind.
They're still
Yeah.
in the process of the audit. I'm not sure
Okay.
how close to the finish line things are. I just want to point out that Sharon's absolutely right. I guess I don't spend much time in the back of the town report, but yeah, there's on page 94 and 95 of the current town report, there's a very nice list of the organizations and a brief summary of what they do. So that is very helpful.
Okay. Perfect. Anything else with the warnings?
Yes. The other big question is hybrid meeting. We don't necessarily need to decide it tonight, but we will eventually need to decide if, for the informational meetings, if we are going to try to offer in-person opportunities to help respond to folks who don't have the technology to Zoom in and yet have them participate.
I mean, I think it's hard to say what March is going to bring. I mean, the vaccines are not going to be for the general public, but I think we have to offer it. You know, it's probably going to have to be kind of like what they do with the church. You have to call and sign up and reserve a spot and say, once we hit that number, whatever our limit is, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's our limit based on the sort of the age of the building and air circulation and things like that. Is our limit even lower than what a normal, not a normal limit, but what the building limit is because of the age of the building?
No, the age doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the physical space, the area, dimensional area. Really.
Okay.
And I don't have a current figure on what the restriction
Right.
is.
And it could be changed. I mean, our numbers are probably going to go bump a little bit because of the holiday season, but hopefully it should start to go back down again. But yeah.
I think the way
Yeah,
we
I think
did
it's good.
I think the way we did it for the police discussion, the community policing discussion in August, I thought, well, other than the audio glitches that we hopefully can overcome this time, I thought that worked out pretty well.
And is it something where we'd have an in-person as well as do the Zoom, or would the in-person be the in-person and then a Zoom one would be a Zoom one?
I think
Would they be at the same time, or you're saying they'd be separate?
I think for
Right.
efficiency, they should be at the same time, so that everybody's getting the same information at the same time.
Exactly. You can't do one and then the other because they won't have the information. They both have to be at the same time if that's the way we choose to do it.
Right, we have to benefit from the conversation, right? The back and forth.
I do have one question. So typically, the normal meeting is February 22nd. So am I attending as the board clerk for that one and then not March 1st, or how is that working?
It's up to the board. Sure.
I mean, normally what would happen on the regular town meeting, Sharon, you would take the minutes. Is that right? You or Jen?
Yeah. I think Jen did it last year for the police district.
Yeah, I mean it has been done like that. I guess it's just all about how we want to do it.
I mean, I'm fine with doing it. I don't want to attend and then not be needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think having it be consistent and maybe having Kasha do it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it frees us up to engage
Right.
more directly. So
Okay, so the census I'm getting is you want me to do both. Oh, okay.
Yep, I would advocate for that
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
if you're available and willing.
Yes.
Great. And again, we don't have to decide this tonight, but ultimately logistics of who's going to be physically present and how to manage that. I mean, from the board's side and the administrative side and
Right.
technology side of things, how we're going to set that up.
Yeah, we'll have to coordinate with Sean and what works. I mean, he did the one with the police, so he probably has a good idea of how it all worked. But
And we might even want to consider seeing if Fred would be interested in moderating.
Well, we just need to give him a heads up because he'll be in Florida.
Of course.
He is in Florida now.
Yeah, but I know he said he's happy to come back. He has no problem coming back. He usually comes back at least once anyway. So
Valerie,
we just have to let him know.
I'm sorry, Michelle. Valerie,
No,
if this
okay.
works out where we're call in to reserve, I want to come in person at the town hall, and we can only take, let's say, 50. And will we have a TV there, a big TV, where people who are calling in will watch and hear the question from the audience in the room, and then we'll hear the audience will also hear a question from people calling it in?
Just like before, like now, because imagine your computer screen being projected up on the screen at Holly Hall.
Correct. So that's what I was getting
before.
And
So
do
if
we
that-
oops, I'm sorry. Do we have a Zoom capacity that's large? Like if we have 300 people who, want to Zoom in, can we handle that via our Zoom account?
Good question. I don't know. We might, if not, we might be able to
Pump it up for the day or something.
a short
We have
term.
we can do 100 participants.
So if space is an issue, could we do something with the high school where we use the gymnasium where we could really spread people out? Is that
myself, Baker?
Unlikely because they aren't letting anybody from the public in that building.
Right.
okay?
Unless you're a teacher, a student, or somebody who's subcontracted to work in there.
Well,
I
that
mean, it
makes
doesn't
sense.
hurt to ask, but that's what I've understood.
Yeah. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should also look at surrounding towns and to see what they're doing too.
I mean, we can check with Devin and see, but my guess is they probably won't let us in.
I would agree.
Michelle, I have got a little information what Middlebury's done. I've seen their minutes, and they're going to be hiring let's for better terms, an IT person to do a queue, so people who will get in instead of you or Valerie or the moderator trying to handle everybody who wants to raise their hand. Kind of like you listen to the governor's press conference.
Right.
Somebody else is doing that. Okay, this person was next in line. Something we could maybe, I don't know if Sean can do that through Bristol Neat TV or what, but.
Yeah, and how do you do that? How do you put them in a queue I mean, this is just a phone line that you call in on. I don't know how you do that. Would do that queue. There must have to be a separate line to call in for questions.
Or maybe it's an upgraded level of the program that offers different administrative tools. Like, for example, that the school district used for the rooms. I don't think our account has that capability, but they have a higher level account.
Right.
Webinars and breakout rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a professional version or whatever it is, because all the mediators have that type of account.
Right.
Yeah. I have that type of account.
Ah. We'll have you host it.
No, thank you.
Just because I have that account doesn't mean I know how to use it.
Tell me about it. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the
Yeah. Well,
questions.
I guess the main thing is just looking at those the numbers in terms of what the building capacity is.
Mhm.
So part of my concern, regardless of the capacity of how many weekend people get in there, it's the length of time. That's one of the bigger issues that you need to look at. Like you can, the press conferences and stuff like that the governor holds. There's a limited amount of people in there, but they're also not going on for potentially 4 or 5 hours like town meetings have gone on for. And that's where something, even if we're wearing masks and we're 6 feet apart, if you're spending 4 hours in a room that has very poor air circulation anyway, which is Holly Hall does, like that's also a big danger. And that's something that I'm not willing, personally myself, I'm not willing to do that as a select board member. I would be concerned about that given the length of the town meetings. So I don't know, that needs to be put into the discussion as well.
Well, I will say they aren't as long as they used to be when we had the school board on with us.
That's true.
And also, I wonder just how long they're going to be this year with no voting. No articles to vote on.
That's true.
Right. They're informational, but I mean, in March it will be cold. We could have the windows open, but you're still dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's get the numbers and figure that out now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So in the meantime, look it over. We'll certainly be coming back to this. I'll probably have another version for the next meeting, and a little bit more fleshed out, and see if there are any other red flags or things that need to be adjusted, things that are obsolete, or anyway, just we'll work toward a final version.
So for voting on the next day, usually it's a fairly small piece of paper that we have for particular things that we're voting on. For this, do we need anything special that the town clerk has to create in terms of having such a large ballot now? Is that a specialized thing that needs to happen, or will it be fairly simple to do that?
Jen, you're muted, Jen, but we're gonna have to hand count, right?
No, we can put it
Oh, you
all
won't
on
have
the
to.
calculator.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a matter of finalizing your warning so that we can start working on the formatting of the ballot. And
Okay.
it may be that it's a 2-page double-side ballot, depending upon how many questions there are in addition to people running for elections.
Right. And is it like a heavier cardstock, like
Yeah,
ballots that we?
just like a
Okay.
regular ballot that you get
Okay.
now. So it'll just be, and Sharon and I had talked about a couple of different things as far as, like we didn't think that it would be cost effective to mail a ballot to everyone just because of how inaccurate that voter checklist is, even still. Because you just can't remove, it's not like, oh, it came back, so you just get to take them off the list. It's a process. So mail it, the mailing that you guys were going to do, is there some kind of detachment that we want to put on there that says mail this back to the town office or drop it off to request your absentee ballot? As an easy way for people to not have to call during office hours, leave a message, whatever the case may be. Like, is that something we think is beneficial? We don't think is beneficial. I don't know what the answer is, but if they could just drop their slip in the box that had their name on it and said, this is the address I want you to mail it to me at, that certainly could be an option.
Right.
Jennifer, could you have, instead of mailing everybody a ballot, you could put it on front porch forum many days ahead and say, if you want a ballot, vote by at home, you please call the office and request a ballot we mail to you.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're on the checklist.
Absolutely. There's definitely social media platforms to be used For sure.
Not everybody has that, so how do you catch those that are
That's
not?
I mean, I know at the beginning of this when we talked about changing over to doing the total voting for town meeting, you guys doing a mailing to everyone, and I don't know if you guys have decided who you're going to mail to, but you know, ask
How many
maybe-
people are officially on our voter checklist?
How many people? I think it's got to be over 3,000 now. It was hovering around 3,000 before the election.
Is there a way to consolidate a mailing to just go to the households? So one mailing per household, even though there might be 4 voters.
We had talked to, whenever we've talked to the post office about this in the past, it's been kind of a difficult thing because we used to have a postal permit and we don't anymore because we weren't doing mailings anymore. And the difficulty becomes the rural routes because you can't just do Bristol resident because some of the rural routes are not Bristol rural routes. They're
Right.
Starkborough or they're Moncton or they're
Right.
Well, I wonder, Jen, I wonder if we could just do postal patron and just do it to, you know, every mailbox in Bristol and just say, if you're a registered voter at the town of Bristol, you know, you can contact the town and get your.
right. So that's the issue that you get the people who live in Moncton with a Bristol mailing.
Right.
You know, there is certainly the confusion. Not that we couldn't in the office determine that, but if that would be confusing for the person receiving the mail. So I don't know the best way to reach individuals. Honestly, I don't via mail. I mean, when the school asks, we usually give them the grand list. Just because that at least gets you property owners, but that doesn't get you apartment owners or renters, excuse me, or anybody who might be renting or additional people in the household that get their mail differently or whatever the cases may be.
So I guess we could use postal patron knowing that it reaches the most households, and just we have to have very clear wording, on our brief letter explaining that if you're a Bristol voter, you can request your ballot by mail or tear off the piece at the bottom, as you said, and return that or whatever.
But if we're sending it to a household, does that allow more than one person to return the one tear off piece?
I mean, you could make it so it's multiple names if you need it, you know, like the handwritten.
Okay.
Right.
Over, you know, I mean, we could certainly devise
You
it.
can put on the bottom, please list registered voters at this address.
Okay.
But
Yeah, because postal patron, would that only for one, that would just go to one household?
Right. One per household.
Okay.
One per household.
Or mailbox or whatever, right?
Right. Well, that's something that we need to work on soon, right? In terms of when we want to send that out to be able to get people to request and have it mailed out in time and mailed back, or just pick it up or whatever.
Right. We want to plan for early February, I would think.
Right.
The latest to get something out.
Okay.
If not before then, the way the
Yeah.
mail's been going.
Well, we won't have the warning finalized until the end of the month.
We don't need that finalized though to send out if they want absentee ballot. We
Oh,
can
that's
ask, we can ask that time.
We
and
just
then
need to get the list created.
yeah,
The
and
ballot.
we have the ballot, then we can mail
So you're
Okay.
thinking 2 separate mailings, speaker?
them. We're not
Holly
mail a
agrees
ballot.
that as well.
You're not going to mail a ballot with the request or with the ask.
No, but I'm thinking that I thought that the initial mailing we had talked about was like budget information and all the things that they would potentially be voting on. And so the way that what you're talking about to me makes it sound like we should send something out now asking people if they want a ballot and then do an additional mailing later with the extra information. It's fine if that's what you want. I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding what you're asking.
Well, I mean, I think I think if we do the postal patron thing, we put in there, if Bristol registered voters, respond if you want an absentee ballot and, list all registered voters at this address. And then if they do want a ballot, then we could send a ballot and with the information in it at that time. I mean, because we're going to have 2 informational meetings. So if they really want to know, and maybe we can list those informational meetings
in the ballot
on that.
You can't do that.
What do you mean?
Why not?
Because that's like stopping someone as they're walking into the polling place is what they like. You can't, like, we couldn't send a ballot with the extra informational stuff that you wanted to put in there.
A ballot has to be by itself.
Right. It can be its own thing, and that's it. Unfortunately, you can't put extra.
Because otherwise it can be construed as
like
leading.
Like we're advertising to vote yes for something, even though you're not really. You know what?
Right.
Even though you're providing information, it's
then we can list the 2 informational meetings on that. Postal patron thing and say, please tune in, for additional information or whatever.
They won't be early enough to mail their ballots back in unless.
Right.
I mean, because we won't get ballots until the middle of February.
Right. So I don't even think we have time for 2 mailings. I think we can only do the 1 mailing, right?
Could the mailing be a combination of informational, budget work, maybe a page and a half, 2 pages, whatever, on both sides?
We can, Joel. We're talking about timing. Were we going to be able to get that out to people so that they would have time to call and say, I want an absentee ballot? That's what the question is.
Well, I'm just saying,
to get that out.
If the budget stuff was in, and then there's in that budget paper that we mail out, it would also say, if you want a ballot mailed to your house, please call the office. And have that go out by the 1st of February.
Help me understand why, if the town report's available, why would we send out additional information and not just reference the town report?
We usually only print about now, I believe, 300-400 town report.
Right, but it's also accessible online.
Yes.
I'm just wondering
about it because voting for town meeting had been standard in person, and that because you're voting everything via ballot, wanting to provide, like, if you weren't going to provide a town report to everyone, how were you going to provide that information? And you don't I guess you don't have to do a mailing for the information.
I'm just wondering if there'll be enough information to help inform someone. You know what I mean? Other than the town report's pretty inclusive and gives. I'm just working it through in my head, so I'm just.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess the only thing I'm worried about is that people request the ballots and that it's going to be totally different than what they're used to seeing in March, and that they're going to be calling questions, which is fine, but that's what I guess that's what I was thinking about the mailing was.
No, that makes sense to me, Jen. I was just trying to figure out.
No, I don't know. There's no right answers these days.
Oh, well, exactly.
Okay, so what about the possibility of doing 2 mailings? That the first mailing, 2 gets us the ability to get more eyeballs on it, more people remembering that this change is happening. So the first one talks about requesting your ballot, because we're obviously going to try to encourage that as much as possible. And people are kind of used to that, but knowing that it's going to happen for this meeting in terms of vote, you can request your ballot to vote early. And then that the second mailing has the one that's the more, by then we'll have information that has the more specific information about those new changes that are happening. And here's how you're going to vote. Because I feel like if you put all of that together, it's just going to get lost. Whereas if we have the ability to do a brief one, Bristol residents request your ballot, then you've got your second one that details out what's going to happen for that March vote.
So there'd be 2 mailings, and then the ballot itself would be mailed. So 3 mailings total.
Right.
Okay.
The ballot would only go out for those who
if requested. Yeah.
Different question.
Are
So
we
can the
o-
first, go ahead, Go ahead, Peter.
are we overthinking this?
Don't
Well,
we
no,
always?
seriously, because I understand we're going to get a lot more people voting on all the articles than we ever have. We're going to get the people that normally vote on town meeting day, that normally vote for the people running for office, and then we're going to get other people that because normally the only people that vote on the articles are the people at town meeting.
Right. So you're talking about 150 people as opposed to the 660 people who show up to vote for your
General
ballot voting the following day.
So we're already going to get 500 more people than we normally do voting.
Mm-hmm.
I think we make them aware that this is available, and it's how far do we have to be led in order to do our civic duty?
You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
And I know, Ian, you've been great about making sure that all these people are informed about all this stuff. It's just like what these organizations do is in the back of the book. How many people go to the back of the book and actually read what the organizations do? I'm all for putting the information out there, but how far do we have to go?
Right.
Are we overthinking what we're trying to do to get people to vote on the articles? We're already going to have, I would dare say, 500 people more than what we normally have, the normal voters that show up on town meeting day.
Right.
And that's where I think the postal patron could just be a card, like a postcard, rather than a letter that says, attention Bristol registered voters, and you can request your ballot, and this is where you can find the information. We'll have the informational meetings, and you can get the documents online, and leave it at that.
Okay.
I mean, at some point, it's up to them to
Because every one of these we send out is going to cost us money. Is going to increase our budget. Right. I mean, and this is the budget that we're already working on. This isn't
right.
The we're drafting.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's 3,000. If we send out 3,000 at 55 cents a piece, that's
right.
$1,650.
Ian, you had done a calculation a while back when COVID first hit, and we talked.
It was huge
about a mailing to people, offering information about the mutual aid and that kind of thing. And you had done some calculations at that time about cost for a postal patron mailing.
Yeah, isn't that like $3,000?
Yes, but you can sort of pick and you can also pick and choose. Well, that was different because we could pick and choose different areas of Bristol too. I'll see if I can dig that up. Yeah, it's definitely not cheap. So a single postcard would be nice, and there's obviously postcard rate versus letter rate too. So given the postcard, can you have something not necessarily mocked up, but just the wording that might go on there for next week's meeting? So we'd have something to look at and approve, hopefully, and just get that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I like Michelle's idea of just the postcard. I think that is the simplest kind of thing. It's saves us a little bit. We don't have the detail anyway and we don't want to go into detail, but it's just your ballots are available at this time or can be requested. That's probably like Peter said, the simpler thing to do.
I just think that if we at least give them they can call in, they can get their ballot, or they can send the letter in, they can get their ballot. Mm-hmm. We don't need to, we don't need to go overboard.
Right. Yeah. The more you send out can inform, or the more you send out can just confuse people too.
Thoughts on if the postal patron mailing is too expensive? Has there been any consideration about just mailing to those who attended in November?
Or maybe we just put it in the newspaper. A notice in the newspaper.
That nobody reads.
That nobody reads.
Nice.
Well, I was wondering at least the message board out front, in front of the town offices, because I think that this thing, if you're going to send something out, at least ought to say, town meetings going to be much different. Some by Zoom or call in, or if you plan on attending, you must reserve a spot. You just-
And there's limited seating or whatever. I think between a mailing, social media, a notice, we could even possibly utilize Neat TV. They used to have a public message board. I think between all of those ways, I think we're doing our due diligence. I don't think we're leaving things out for sure.
I mean, it's in the past. What have we done in the past? We haven't sent a letter to everybody telling you it's town meeting day. Come vote.
Right.
I mean,
Different this year, but yeah.
Why is it different? It's still town meeting day that we vote. You can request your ballot. You can request the absentee ballot. You've always been able to do that.
Right. Oh, yeah. I guess I was just, it's different in that they won't be coming in,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's different in that hopefully they're understanding all the information that they're voting on. They're not just voting on a person's name. That's what I think is the biggest difference. It's not like you're going in to say, I'm going to vote for Jen for clerk and Michelle for select board and Ian for select board. You're going in to say, do you approve a highway budget of however many hundreds of thousands of dollars? And that hopefully they've done their due diligence to know what that budget represents and how much of a difference that is. And
no
And-
offense, but those people
I mean,
who are
there's
going to be
other people that
interested
vote no.
will do their due diligence, and those who don't are just going to vote yes or no.
I think that's what I see as the biggest difference, is that it's not just whose name do you know on the piece of paper that has convinced you to come out and participate. It's
right.
the bigger piece of the information of hopefully they understand it.
And you might want to bring a sandwich with you because you're going to be a while voting.
Hopefully because this could be
Gonna need about 40 articles on there.
This could be a nightmare for us if portions of the budget get voted down just because you have that many more people voting.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Okay, so can I just suggest, let's think about this and discuss it next week, how we really want to do this so we can move on.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay, come up with your thoughts next week, or at least think about, do we really need to do a postal mailing? Do we really need to do a postcard? Do we need
I'll
to?
start a big fire and send out smoke signals.
The cost is around like $500.
For what?
There's to send it to all of our six routes in Bristol.
Postage.
Yeah, and that's 2,544 addresses, and it's every door direct mail. That's what the system is at the post office. I think Taylor found that out. I did it where it was like 1,600, and Taylor found a thing like, what about this? And I think it's something that's what we would use. It has a certain set rate, and it goes to all routes in our area. So it's like $500
as a postcard, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll forward that to you, Jen. You can take a look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Perfect. Okay, let's move on. Approval of December 14th minutes, because December 21st we're pushed off, right, Val?
To the next meeting, yep.
All right, so I sent my minor changes to Val.
Yep, I sent a note.
Yep.
Move to approve.
Second, I have just one correction, Michelle.
Go ahead.
Or just an ask a question. On the first page, number 3, we're under regular business. Go to the next to the last line where it says the DRB will only be a 7-member board and a 2-person. Shouldn't be there?
Yeah, I think I took that out.
Okay.
That was one of the
That's all I
changes I
have.
gave to Val. Yep.
Sorry, I got the regular
Okay.
going here and stuff.
That's okay. So somebody made a motion. I don't know who that was. Who was it? Okay, Joel, and who seconded?
I second it.
Joel or Peeker, one of them. Pick your choice,
Peter made the
Tasha.
motion, I second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye, wave your hand, whatever. Okay, motion carried. Accounts payable warrant and liquor license. I don't think I have the warrant in here.
158,207.07.
Okay,
Unless it's changed since the one you sent me.
no, that's it.
Okay.
Okay, anybody have any questions on that warrant? Okay. Jen, there were no liquor licenses, were there? Okay. So has everybody gotten down or been down to sign it with the exception maybe Joel? Joel, did you go down?
Pretty good. It's been pretty good.
I was gonna say.
Making better progress for sure.
I gotta be in town tomorrow. I'll come down.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to sign the ones from tonight too, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Bring your sandwich, Joel.
Yeah. Selectboard roundtable. Darla, we'll start with you.
Let's see. The only thing I have this evening is Ernie actually called me, Ernie Senegal, and asked if someone from the road crew could come by and take a look at the driveway, the end of his driveway, the apron. He believes it's eroding because of water. So if that's a possibility for someone to take a look at that and give an opinion.
He's still on Spring Street, right?
He's on Spring Street. Yeah, 24. Yeah, he shares a driveway with the house next door. And I guess the other side of the driveway is quite bad right now.
Okay. Is that it?
That's all I have.
Okay. Peeker.
Nothing here.
Jolie?
Just one thing, and I saw it Saturday. During the winter months, we gotta talk with the landfill people. I watched Kale be in line that garbage from Liberty Street corner to get to the garage. Cars were backed up almost to my house, and he started just past my house by Gary Russell's driveway on the corner there. And he was probably 25 minutes getting to the garage to get another load of sand and stuff. And, it wasn't a bad storm, so it wasn't that bad. But I've got to I think we need to work with the R&L and the road crew and try to alleviate some of the backup or something. I don't know why it's been such a I guess, and I don't know why, because they don't want them getting out of the car. I understand that, but.
Do you think it was worse this week because of the holiday, Joel, or is it?
I'm not sure, Darla, but I watched him and I went downtown, came back 25 minutes later, and he finally made it. He was up almost to the garage.
No, I can tell you it is that bad.
It is.
And it's a certain time. It's like 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it was
10 and 11.
It was 5 after 11. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, Chad and I went down there this weekend, and I don't remember what time it was. It was like 9:30, and we pulled in, and we were pretty close, pretty much right through. And when we left the line, you're right, it was almost down to Jolie's house. Actually, it was probably down to Liberty Street when we left, and I was like, boy, we got here at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a timing thing, but I don't understand why there can't be some way to get the town trucks through there.
Well, I almost want to say, Kale, I'll go down block traffic. Can you just go in the other lane and get down there?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's something to talk to R&L about. I mean, I know sometimes it takes people a while to get through there. It's like, can you drive forward and not wait 10 minutes for them to move? It's like, and it is. I mean, people can't get out. But in some ways that's better because then they're just opening their trunks and the guys are in there getting it in and out and whatever.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Ian.
I have 2 road crew related items. I had someone ask about the plowing of the parking for Main Street and then the snow removal. They'd noticed that, the parking ban light comes on and the parking spots were cleared, but the snow wasn't removed. And then a few days later, the parking ban happened again, and then the snow was cleared. And I don't know if those 2 things usually happen together, or if there's a reason that they were split, and wouldn't it be more efficient to do it all at once to clear the snow and remove it? So I don't have the answer to that. And maybe someone else on this board does. So that's my first one.
It's all timing and when the storm happens and how much they've got going on.
Yeah.
I mean, if the storm's over and they can do it all, but if the storm is still going on, they're not going to move the snow off of Main Street until it stops.
It seems like they would do it together because they're there, and you don't have to send a whole other crew out another day to get it. So, okay. So best attempt, but it all depends on what happens.
Yeah.
Well, and don't they usually have the big plow that shovels it off, so they don't always have the dump truck with him working at the same time. So then he piles it and then they come back. But I noticed like this morning, the parking ban sign wasn't on, so people were parked on Main Street this morning.
Yeah, if they don't get it when the storm happens, then they have to come back and do it again. And depending on the timing of the storm, if the storm happens through the day, obviously the car's parking there and they're going to have to come back and clean it. And
Okay. And then the second thing was a personal thing. So I'm up on Mountain Terrace. I'm around the corner on the right-hand side, and the plowing seems every year gets closer and closer, and it cuts into a fairly large section of the lawn and has now cut into my driveway, and the gravel that was on my driveway is now on another section of my lawn. And it's I can see that it's clearly way over what the actual road area is. And so I'm curious recommendations from people on what to do about that to hopefully get the plow a little bit over to the left, so not so much of my grass and drive is being plowed.
Put a stake there. Just put stakes right
that's
along
true.
the end of your hay.
I do have a hydrant right there, so usually you can see the hydrant. But okay, so maybe just stake out that edge, just as a visual marker. Okay.
Yeah, because my guess is that they don't exactly, when it's all snow covered, they don't exactly know where the edge is. So
and it's the road falls up. There's no sidewalk up there, so it just sort of falls up. But that's it. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Ian, I think I do have an answer for that. Eric's been plowing that with his truck instead of the village truck that we're selling, because he hasn't taken that out yet because they don't want to use it. And if the motor blows, then they're out nothing. And I think that truck's not much bigger, but maybe Eric doesn't. He gets over a little more than he should. But that's why they've got it with a different truck. I think the wing on that truck that Eric uses is a little bigger. That's why.
Okay.
But like Michelle says, a couple wooden stakes along the edge there.
Okay. All right, I'll try that.
Although if they take them out, then you may want to call Eric and say, "What's up?"
And I asked Eric. I see the sign is blinking tonight. You mentioned Main Street. I mean, this weatherman, it dropped an inch last night, and as he said the other day, we don't pull the skid, go down there with a big loader and push it all down over Stone Basin Street, and this is enough of it. With this 1 inch, they'll push it probably to the curb and just leave it there until the next storm.
Yeah.
And then pull it all off.
Great. That's it. Thanks.
The only thing I'll say is like this Saturday, I think. When did we get snow? It's Friday night to Saturday?
Saturday.
When I came through town, I can tell you, I'll say thank you to the business owners, at least on the north side of the street. That whole sidewalk was cleaned off. Even for the stores that weren't open, somebody had cleaned the sidewalk. The south side wasn't quite so good. And I assume that was because a lot of them might not have been open. But the north side was definitely cleared off.
So the north side. The north side's being cleared by one of the residents on that side.
I saw somebody out there shoveling.
Yeah, it's Susan who lives above Harmonia. She does it. She does the entire street or the entire side. Yeah.
Oh my God, good for her.
when I saw her, she was all the way out around the back of town doing the site. I mean, she does a remarkable job.
Well, kudos to her.
Yeah, I thanked her today. She was very grateful, and Core worked with Shauna at Honey Lights, and if she hasn't done it already, she will be giving her a gift, sort of just for all the work, and from the businesses on that side who were very grateful for that. Yeah, she's done that for a good long while, so that was it was very nice.
Well, Jolie, I wanted to point out I was in Middlebury on Sunday after we got the snow, and their sidewalk plow does not do that good of a job. I can tell you that because I was running on the sidewalks and we wound up running in the road, and there wasn't really that much snow. But so I don't know if that V plow that they have is doing much better than what ours does or not. But I wasn't that too awful impressed with what they had plowed on Saturday or Sunday morning anyway. But okay. Town administrators report. You're muted, Val.
Sorry. I don't have much to add to my written report, just to reiterate that I've been spending a lot of time researching water ordinance details and enforcement details and specification details and communications to customer details. And I hope I'm making some progress, but I think I'll be trying to make some contact with the Rural Water Association. They sent out a solicitation recently promoting the services that they provide to member municipalities, which Bristol is. And that includes ordinance updates and specification updates and that kind of thing. I don't know if we go that route, I don't know how long it would take to get done. And I'm not sure what the best way, if we don't involve them, I'm not sure what the best way is to sort through the different examples and types of provisions that can be included in an updated ordinance, because the specifications can vary from place to place depending on, you know, each different district's situation. So, and enforcement is proving to be a challenge. How do you deal with something that's been and how would an ordinance address violations of the detail or the specifications, either process wise or actual construction wise? Kevin Brown, I exchanged some information with him, and he's going to take a crack at drafting a beefed up enforcement section. So at least that'll get us started.
Okay.
I welcome any feedback, any suggestions.
Valerie, I saw Jill the other day, talked with her, and she was out reading meters. So obviously the bills are going to be going out probably by the end of the week or next week. Are we going to have something stuffed in the envelopes at least to start?
I have it about 20% drafted, maybe more. I do want to run it by Jill and Jen to make sure it's useful. So yeah, that's in the works.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously if they go out now, they won't go out again until late April, early May for the second quarter. And if we miss contractors, people want to do some work, their thing, and we had this same situation like we did up in North Street with no spacer wire and all that.
Right. I have not wanted to reinvent the wheel, and I did some poking around to see if there's any other information online from other districts and information about repairs and leak management and stuff like that. And there's really very little. And what is out there isn't necessarily relevant to Bristol's scale. So, I expect to have a little bit more time tomorrow and later on this week to put more together and run it by Jill and Jen.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. Other business, correspondence reports. Anything there, Al? Anything you want to know, Val, under the correspondence? I mean, I've read everything that you put in there, but.
Let's see. I thought the Teen Center newsletter was nice. Not sure the MAUSD facilities planning survey. I don't know if folks are motivated to check that out.
Although if you read Front Porch Forum, you'll get plenty of information.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone should fill out that survey. I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's a lot of people who say it's not giving them what the information they think it should give them. But if you don't fill it out, you're not going to participate either.
Right.
That's always a hazard with survey tools. It can be criticized for design and.
Yeah, I think it's fairly decent. They're in a very difficult position, and it's something that perhaps a lot of the people who are vocal about this haven't followed for the last 5 or 6 years that this has been going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's good to have it there and have people see it.
Okay. All right. So I guess last is executive session. Anything other than that? Are you waving goodbye, Jen? Bye.
Bye, Jen.
Okay. I'll make a motion. We enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters per 1 VSA section 313.
Super.
Somebody second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, motion carried.
Night.
Good night,
Good night.
Tasha.
Good night.
Tasha,
Thanks, Tasha.
Thank you.